What's going on? 6 o'clock. Good morning. Happy Friday from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Light sports day, but we're still here with the update. Former Packers wide receiver Randall Cobb joining SEC Network as a college football studio analyst. Cobb played 13 years in the NFL, totaling around 7,600 yards with 54 touchdowns. The Saints have placed offensive tackle, their right tackle to be specific, Ryan Ramczyk, on the reserve PUP. Now, there was a little discourse on Twitter yesterday about how long he would be out. He will be out the entire year, not the 4 games that players were suggesting. Why? Because a vested veteran placed on the reserve PUP prior to the final roster reduction is out for the season. Players placed on reserve PUP at the final roster reduction will miss at least 4 games. So Ryan Ramczyk for the Saints out for the year. In the NBA, Clippers and Jazz agree to a sign and trade involving Russell Westbrook. The team announced Thursday. Sources told ESPN's agent Wojnarowski that the former MVP is expected to join the Nuggets after Utah waives him and buys out the remainder of his contract. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
We have made it. Happy Friday. Everyone who's waking up with us this morning. It is Ramon, Kayla, and Will here on 104.5 The Zone alongside our 11-year NFL veteran, our Vol for life. It is Ramon Foster.
Yay.
He's got the stretch in this morning behind the glass making everything happen. It is our pristine producer, Robert Walsh. We call him Bert around these places here in Midtown and right here, holding it down at the fort, driving the ship today. Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling doing a little track and field today. Hoping he actually was able to get into his hotel and an early check-in.
I don't.
We'll have to check in if that new hotel he checked in actually gave him that as well, because I know he switched it up because he was tired of the other one not allowing him to have the easy early check-in. But, you know, it's Friday around these parts. And you know what we do on Fridays, right?
Tell us, Kayla. What we do, Bert?
We act like it.
We act like it. Yeah.
There it is.
Let's take me back.
All the workers, they work 9 to 5.
Friday
and
practice day.
We will get to see next week if they continue to play this song on Fridays at Titans practice.
Yes,
we will be
will.
able to tell you that firsthand.
It's the last weekend without this song being played where it means nothing. From here on out, it means everything, man.
It does.
We are so back, y'all.
I know. We're back.
We are so back, man. But at some point, man, can we ever get that Dan Le Batard, like, football? Like, at some point.
He's going to play it right now.
At some point in August. Not yet, but at some point, maybe.
Man, I looked for it yesterday.
You did?
I was going to play it yesterday. Yeah, somebody replaced it. It is gone, so I will have to re-replace it.
Oh, look at my fist clenched right now, okay? My fists are clenched.
There's only a couple people. We could really narrow it down if we wanted to.
If I hold them down, will y'all beat their legs up?
I would rather you beat their legs
you
up.
don't want
y'all
me
hold them
anywhere
down,
around
man.
someone like
just
that.
Just wear a stiletto. That's all I ask for you. Just wear one stiletto and just, because it's worthy of that.
I will. I'll take them out of hiding.
Yeah, 100%. It's worthy of that, Kayla.
For real.
Whoa, hey, that ain't wrong.
I thought that was it.
That ain't wrong either, okay? It sounded like somebody hit the DJ booth. That's all.
There it is. Wow.
Football.
You're so back.
Football.
So back.
Football. That's the best one. All right, put them back.
How
in the
many guys
put
are
'em
doing
up.
that at the same time, by
Sounds
the
like
way?
4. I'm catching 4.
I believe it was
boys.
on the Dan Levitard show, and they have like 400
Okay.
people working on that
Well,
show.
that's true.
so-
They've got a lot behind the scenes, right?
Yes, indeed, man. By the way, this morning, speaking of football, too, one, I hope everybody's cell phone and flights are okay. It's like a global outage going out hacked. They won't say it that. But there's a lot going on this morning. But this morning, speaking of football, I let the window down a little bit this morning, okay? And I opened
in
up
your
my
truck or
fifth
car?
window on my truck to let some cool air in. It's brisk outside,
Oh,
y'all.
I thought
It
you were
was
saying it
nice.
rained.
No rain this time. I just want to acknowledge when the weather is good. This morning, I peeled the sunroof back a little bit, let the fifth window back, and just let the natural air come through. God, it felt so good this morning.
I know. We didn't have to like pump the air last night very high. It was one of those, maybe you could even open your windows if you wanted to, because today I walked out and usually I'm like sweating already once I walk out the door. And then when we walk in the studio, I need 5 coats on. But that's besides the point. But yes, it was very nice out this morning.
It was. By the way, too, I'm very proud and upset with myself, too. There's 2 things going on this morning for no particular reason, okay?
Okay.
I get out. I had to get some stuff out the back of my truck, which is fine. All right, cool. Well, there were 3 doe, okay, probably about 20 feet away from my truck. I mean, three fawn, baby deer. And a mom, it looked like, had to have been the mama bear with them, or mama deer with them.
Sure.
And they watched me take something out the back of my truck, okay, so much so that the mama turned around and fully faced me. Was like, what you got going on, little dude? We trying to sleep. We trying to forage this morning.
So they were just standing?
Because I'm proud of myself of moving to a place to where the deer can roam free, okay?
Right.
That's kind of cool. That signifies you're probably not in the bad area, okay? It can be an apartment. It can be a condo. It can be a house. But I'm in a decent area, okay?
Sure.
Shout out to Humble Hendersonville.
The deers like it.
You know what I'm saying? The deer like it. But here's the other thing, though, too. The deer completely watched me do work and didn't move. And I'm just like, all right, I don't know if y'all got a problem or I'm the problem. Like, maybe I should be a little bit more scary. Okay, I'm sure when others walk past deer, the whitetail come up and they run away. Okay, Kayla? I was just like, have I lost it? Have I lost it? Okay, there's so much that the deer...
That intimidation factor?
Maybe I need to go practice is what I was thinking to myself.
Say, maybe you've been away from football too long, Ramon.
Exactly. Maybe I should throw, balloons in my house, or spray paint it or
Exactly.
something, because there's no fear over in my house, is what I'm telling you.
Maybe, that's not Bambi over there. Maybe that's another type of deer.
I think Zeus is conditioning my dog. I got
Probably.
a Rottweiler. Because he'll sit in the back, and they're back there chilling and eating and stuff,
They're probably friends.
and he'll walk with them.
They're probably friends.
I call him their stepdaddy. Zeus is the deer stepdad. I don't know.
Have you looked at the
I'm
babies?
telling you, they tan. Zeus got some tan in him. Make it make sense, Kayla. I'm making sense of it.
He ain't the daddy. He's the daddy that stepped up.
Exactly.
Hey, he walked back in the backyard with the deer like they're homies. They'll sit down and lay down. I just hadn't seen him pull out money to pay for milk yet. That's the only thing I ain't seen. So
You need some milk money. I'll get it.
He needs some milk money, man. That's
I
all
got
I'm
it.
saying.
I'll steal it from my owner's pockets.
Some pamper money.
No problem about that.
No, you better figure out some pamper diapers. I'll
I'm
tell you
telling
that.
you,
Some deer diapers.
dogs are another level. My dog did not sleep last night.
Love that for
Red
you.
was hyperactive, needing to go to the bathroom, wouldn't go, needed to go again 3 hours later. So needless to say, if I look extra tired today, or if I sound extra tired, you can blame it on Red, my lab.
Your dog is in
Blame it on
that teenage stage
He
right
is.
now, too. I love that for
and you
you.
can't get mad at him because he's too damn cute. Coming up on the show today, we will talk about Tavondre Sweat, right? Because we are expected to see him out on the field when training camp gets going this next week. Of course, we will be out there live for training camp. It's going to be really exciting. Buck Rising also will follow us live out there throughout training camp. Brent Hubs going to join the show at 7:20. And then something that we found out about yesterday, Derrick Henry. The word is out that he actually could have been traded before the season's end, and they could have had a 4th-round pick in return that could have been up to a 3rd, which we all know they didn't have last year, and they would have loved to have. That is our actual question of the day, too, and we'll get that up on Twitter here in a second. But would you have now, in hindsight, traded Derrick Henry now that you know there was a fourth round, possibly third round pick in return? Or are you fine with him getting to say his goodbyes and ending the season as a Titan? And then in hour 4, our good friend Nate Washington. It's been a while, and he is never afraid to speak his mind. We'll pick his brain about training camp and the Titans as they head into this season coming up at 9:20. So we got a loaded show for you today. I do want to ask you really quick, because we'll have that Derrick Henry conversation a little bit later, but did you think that was something that had happened? Because we had heard rumblings that they were in talks with the Ravens.
I did. That's why I was having the conversation that you need to get something now. I remember saying that, like, it's a fourth, he's gone. A fourth, he's gone. If you get a 3, oh my gosh.
That would have been a world of difference.
I will get more into it, but yes, Kayla, this is a new regime as far as how they view and the analytics of how they go about judging players at their peaks and getting value, and the fact that you didn't have a draft pick in that round. Like, the more picks you can get for a new coaching staff, the better it's going to be. Well, during the season, heck, it was for the old coaching staff. So we'll get deeper into it, but this is I'm sure we're going to pull, take some scabs off today.
Oh, yeah, we're going to rip them off.
How people feel about this now. So
exactly. Hopefully we don't allow you to bleed too much. I know.
Yeah, I know.
Just put the Band-Aid on it. It'll be okay.
I was honestly thinking this conversation before that article dropped yesterday too was, all right, now post Derrick, and now we got a real reason to talk about after Derrick life. I say that like that's death. After Derrick life right there.
After Derrick life as a Titan. There we go.
Yeah, man, that's tough right there. So I'm sure we'll get updates and stuff like that, because Baltimore is one of those premier teams right now. So whatever Derrick does with his stardom, we're going to hear about it. Yeah.
Well, you can always stream. We stream live on the app if you actually want to see our lovely faces this early in the morning. Not everybody would like to see that, but if you want to and you want to join the F&M Bake Chat, you can do that. We are streaming live on Facebook. We are also on YouTube, and what else are we on? Twitch,
please.
No Twitter right now.
Still winning.
We are not streaming there, but you can still go find us on all the other platforms. You can call us with the question of the day, 615-737-1045. Do you think, or would you have, I should say, traded Derrick Henry now knowing that it could have been a fourth or third round pick? That's our question of the day. We will talk a little T'Vondre Sweat, the big man, the new big man on campus. How big of a training camp is this for him? What could be even the expectations this entire season, since there might be a lot on the line for him when it comes to making this line work? That's coming up next here on RKW 1045 The Zone.
This Ramon Foster here for Wesley Mortgage, letting you know, man, first and foremost, it starts with the owner, Chuck McDowell, man. If you ever ran into him, I promise you this, you'll know this. He cares about this community and is proud to serve it. Chuck, he reinvests in the people and the places that make Nashville such a wonderful place, while other mortgage companies are downsizing. Chuck McDowell and the Wesley Mortgage team are rapidly expanding in Nashville, keeping people working in a career that they love, and they would love to have you join their team. Chuck and the leadership team at Wesley Mortgage have a support system in place to help you succeed in the mortgage business, ensuring your loans close on time, making sure you get paid, giving you back time to build your business, and bring back the fun to the mortgage profession. With unique networking opportunities with the Tennessee Titans, yes, that team, and the Music City Grand Prix, they make closing deals and building relationships fun again. So if you're in the mortgage industry and you're tired of the grind, tired of the pressure, and just tired of micromanaging everything to make sure your clients get handled correctly, then you owe it to yourself to go to whywesley.com.
Welcome back. It's RKW here on this beautiful Friday morning in Middle Tennessee. Hoping you have a smooth drive into work today, or maybe you got the day off, or maybe you just decided you woke up this morning and said, I'm not going to work today. Enjoy this Friday. If not, we just appreciate y'all listening, and hopefully we can set the mood and the vibe today for you.
No doubt. Bert come back with a banger right
I
here.
love that song.
Same here,
puts me at ease.
Yeah, it does. It calms you down a little bit because I'm sure we're going to have some rockets today with this Derrick conversation, man.
Yeah, our question of the day. We will continue to take your calls and get your opinions on the chat and on X. Would you, now in hindsight, have traded Derrick Henry knowing that it could have been a 4th or 3rd round pick potentially last year? So go ahead and chat and chime in on our question of the day. We'll get more into that coming up later in the show. But now, another big guy, and you hope he will be somebody that you're going to be talking about as maybe not a face of the franchise, but somebody who can do a lot of good things for this franchise, especially on the defensive front. And if him and Jeffrey Simmons can team up and be that, I think this defensive front and this defense could be as good as it gets in the NFL. And we're talking about the rookie out of Texas, T'Vondre Sweat. We had SEC Media Days wrap up yesterday in Dallas. And by the way, 3HL did an excellent job all week. Thanks for all their hard work and talking to about everybody you could imagine under the sun there at SEC Media Days, including a lot of Sweat's teammates that played with him at Texas. We'll get into that in just a minute. But this is a subject that you're pretty adamant on in terms of T'Vondre Sweat and what you need to see out of him, Ramon, when it comes to this training camp, since we haven't seen a lot of him, but just overall what we need, what the team needs out of him this season to be successful.
To be successful for T'Vondre Sweat, I think it starts with 2 things. One, being in shape. Well, being in shape. I think that's number one right there. And that's for all players coming into camp, but specifically a rookie, his size, his stature, we need to see that. I mean, just be in shape, right? We don't want to hear about the conditioning test. We don't want to hear about anything else as it pertains to you and your football skills and readiness, right? That's got to handle himself. And the other one is the one that can really set this fan base just on the right pathway to enjoying him.
Yeah.
And it's 2 types of people that have to deal with this. It's big people and it's small people, okay? If you're a really big guy, man, there's always going to be a case. Well, is his weight keeping him off the field if there's a situation? And if you're a small guy, the way we talked about Devontae Smith, right? The wide receiver for Philly, super slender.
Small. And still is, really.
And Xavier Worthy is going to have that same conversation in Kansas City. If you're a big guy that we know have that holds a lot of weight, or if you're a super small dude, your availability matters most. Because here's the thing about it. He's already missed all of this spring, whether it be for conditioning or an injury. Nobody knows because we don't have to have injury reports this time of the year. But the one thing that can get him off to the right foot is if we go out there, Kayla, Bert, when Will is here and everybody, and we report, T'Vondre Sweat is at practice. That's going to be the biggest thing. Seeing 93 out there every single day. And as a rookie, there are no vet days for guys like him. He's got to go every single day. So what does that production look like? And also, to get back to the first point of it all, is what does his conditioning looks like too? He's got to check those 2 boxes right there, Kayla, in training camp and then throughout the course of the season. And again, it could be something crazy. It can be an ankle, but what we don't want to presume or assume on a guy like this is if he does have something happen, it's because of his weight. Right? Or we can't see him bent over on the side on the field to where it looked like he's overly gassed. So the thing about T'Vondre with me is this. He's very charismatic, it seems. He wants to be great. He wants to be really good at this game, and he wants to be the ultimate team player. He checks all those boxes. It's now a matter of him being in a position to show that he can perform, and that's what I want to see. Again, with what I know about him and seen and watched him and had a small conversation with him about, I think we're more likely to get all of that than not getting it. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And it's just that whatever was going on in the spring, I hope it wasn't anything that was lingering, because for his availability to be day one to the end of training camp is by far the biggest win he can ever have.
Yeah, and Jim Wyatt does an excellent job, covering the Tennessee Titans and always does his camp previews. He recently did one. I encourage everybody to go to TennesseeTitans.com to read all of those previews, but he did one on the defensive line already. And when he did the excerpt on keep an eye out, it was eye out on Sweat. And he said when camp begins, coaches expect him to be in shape, like you said, Ramon, and ready to roll. Sweat's development will take time. There's a good excerpt to look at that right now. It's going to take time. So he's not going to be maybe exactly what he's going to be 4 games into the season, right?
Right.
And he'll have to improve his technique while getting into better condition. How quickly he's able to settle in will go a long way in determining how much of an impact he could make early in the fall. And that's the thing, Ramon. You talk about offensive linemen. It usually takes 3 or 4 games for an offensive line to gel.
Yeah.
What's different about a defensive line, and in this case, a line that has already a staple in Jeffrey Simmons, but there are a lot of new pieces on this line too.
It is. It's 2 guys I have in mind as far as a comparison to his rookie year that I'm going to get to Vondre to, that I'm going to compare to Vondre to. But before that, what he has to understand and realize, the linemen that he's going to be playing against are smarter. So you also look at film. And I mean immediately looking at camp film. Like, what are your veteran offensive line? What is Lloyd Cushenberry doing against you? What is Daniel Brunskill doing against you? Like, these are the questions that he has to learn. These are the things he has to learn how to do, considering he's new at everything. As much just knowledge that he can take in and reshape himself the next day going out to practice is going to be so much better for him. I think that is going to be number one. The first case study of his is seeing how he reacts to practice against these types of guys. Mm-hmm. If he can do that, then he can take those next steps. The 2 dudes that I will compare with what I want his rookie year to be like, and these dudes are Pro Bowlers now, big contract guys. It is DJ Reader and Javon Hargraves. For one, I think he's probably similar in size to DJ Reader. He might have DJ Reader about 20 pounds or something like that.
Right now, yeah.
But in general, they're about 6'3", both of them. I think Tavondre is 6'4", listed at 6'4", 360. He might be 350-ish now. But the rookie years for DJ Reader, not a whole lot going on. Total snaps that they ended up getting, I think, was over close to 400 snaps is what he had for DJ Reader. He had 2 sacks, 13 hurries, and no forced fumble, but he was around the ball, and you want him to be a run stopper. That is his role. He graded out.
What round was he? Reader?
DJ Reader was a 5th rounder.
Okay.
Javon Hargraves was a 3rd rounder.
Okay. And obviously Sweat, 2nd rounder. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So here's the thing about him. You're not asking him to do a whole lot. You want him to stuff the run, be an assistant to the linebacker, let these guys, whether it be Jack Gibbons, whether it be Kenneth Murray, Cedric Gray, it don't matter. Keep it clean for them up front, and also be a very nice compliment to Big Jeff. Those are the things, and not to Big Jeff, to Arden, and also Harold too, because if more attention go on the interior of the D-line because he's pushing the pocket, that is so much better for the rest of this team. Those dudes can be free. Hargrave's rookie year, and mind you, I played against Hargrave while I was my teammate in Pittsburgh, and I didn't even know who the heck he was coming from South Carolina State. Well, but the same thing goes into Hargraves. About 400 reps. His rookie year, Hargraves had 2 sacks. It's almost identical. 2 sacks, 18 hurries, a quarterback hit, and 21 pressures. Like, again, these 2 dudes are guys that can get after the quarterback as far as the pass rush goes. But the main jobs for their teams, with Hargraves now with the 49ers and DJ Reader is with the Detroit Lions, is to be run stuffers. Yep. That's job number 1. You'll get your stats and praise at a later time from your teammates, but the ability to stop the run and can let these linebackers run side to side, and also to be a headache for teams is number 1 for him. But that all comes on his availability, Kayla. He's got to be there. It's a must. He's there. And I know it sucks that it could be a high ankle sprain. It could be a small it could be anything. But more times than not this year, I got to see Tavondre Sweat out there. So much so that he should be in the conversation of being day 1 starter this year. I mean, how big would that be? I think
that's a no. Yeah, I honestly think it has to happen. Yeah. I really do. So we were talking about going up against guys, right? You being an offensive lineman and going up against guys in practice. You know, your defensive lineman when you were at Pittsburgh. And it's clearly different from college to the professionals. And I know this is going to be a big jump also for Sweat, and we're going to see it firsthand here in training camp. But they did have a chance, and we're talking about 3HL, they had a chance to speak with his former teammate at Texas. Offensive tackle Kelvin Banks had this to say about former Texas teammate T'Vondre Sweat and going up against him in practice.
He's very outgoing. He will show you all his sides, his goofy side, funny. If he gets frustrated, he'll show you all of it. But he's very outgoing, especially on the practice field.
Yeah.
If he's not there, it's like he's gonna be that guy who's talking. He won't even go versus you. He'll still be talking mid-rep. But he's very, very fun, especially on the practice field. He's very competitive as well. It's gonna be very, very cool to see as well because it's only 5 linemen. You can only block you only block so many people. So if you choose to double team one, you gotta go 1-on-1 with the other. So
What is he a game wrecker? Like what? How would you describe his game?
Definitely a game wrecker. I would say a run stuffer, and then people kind of sleep on him, but I feel like he's a great pass rusher as well.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we were talking about stopping the run. Well, he is, and Kelvin Banks says he is a run stuffer.
A run stuffer. Yes, 100%. That's going to be his job number one for him. So I'm looking at the differences between DJ Reed and Javon Hargraves. Again, 2 really good players. Hargraves, his first couple of years, was just a guy that had to prove that he can be out there on third down. I'll never forget Coach Tomlin talking to him. It's like, I can't put you out there if you're going to be a liability in the passing game too, right? Well, your job number one, as he was just saying, is to be a run stuffer. And then after that, he can get after the quarterback. Hargraves, I think his highest sack total was 11, and that was 11 sacks in 2022. He teetered only at about 6 sacks for the most part of his career. Again, getting after the quarterback is something that he can grow with later in his career, which he's capable of, understanding how to play, get smarter on how to rush offensive linemen and schemes and stuff like that after he proves himself. To me, it wouldn't shock me, considering where Denard Wilson comes from, if he takes that old Baltimore Ravens approach and just have some big body dudes up the middle of the defense, like himself, right, that are capable of being a headache for the opposing team trying to run the ball. There's nothing worse, as he said, having a guy that's a game wrecker like that. Like, you take your first step and you're going backwards, Kayla. As a guard, okay, I hated guys like this, but I hated the dudes even more that embrace that. All some guys want to do at that position is get their name called. Like the ones that simply just want to push you backwards so that the linebackers can make the plays, those are the ultimate teammates right there. And that's kind of what you need out of T'Vondre Sweat. But hearing how charismatic he was from his former teammate Banks there, I thought was super unique because I think he has natural leadership abilities. I know he has the ability to make plays. I know he's a guy that you're going to want to be around. Now, here's the other side of this, too. That's all fine if he's having fun, but it's going to be more fun if he's making plays.
Yeah.
That's where he's going to be able to express himself, get more marketing, be a dude that's on the forefront of like this stadium at some point in time if he continues to grow and be progressive in his development.
So you had mentioned, it's something that, you have more fun when you're actually knowing that you're doing your job and you're doing it well. And that's the one thing we've heard about T'Vondre Sweat is whether it's from these coaches, this new staff, or from former players or people that just were fans of him at Texas, like this guy has a personality. Mm-hmm. The question I have, Ramon, is when you are in college, and especially now with NIL, and you get all the praise, and you're the big man on campus. And look, he was the Outland Trophy winner last year, which goes to the best interior lineman on offense or defense, right? And he won that award at Texas last year. Like, this is a guy who got a lot of praise. When you get to the level, though, like this, and you're back kind of down on the ranks, no matter if you like it or not, but you're a rookie.
He's a young guy.
What is it? Is there a awakening moment, or just are these guys humbled from the start? I'm always curious, like, how different guys can be coming into a situation like that, because some of them came from such high praise at the college level.
Oh, this is humbling. Here's the thing about it. You got to come in as a rookie, no matter where you're drafted at, and just be quiet and learn. Like, at some point in time, the vets will let you in on the conversations,
right?
And you can be around. But here's the thing about professional leagues, too. You get that interest into, hey, the cool guy club by making plays. His job number one is to make plays. Like, everybody knows who each draft pick is. Heck, everybody knows who every new young guy is. But specifically the draft picks, because they're more than likely going to make the team. You're one of 256, however many it was this year. And there's no real bother about, him getting bullied. Like the old NFL, I think the vets would have had a real good time with him, tying him up to the goalpost, probably cutting a dread or two off or shaving his eyebrows, like all of that type of stuff is cool, right? But in today's NFL where hazing's a little bit on the back burner and guys just simply just need to go play ball because it's just different. We understand as pros now, that's a grown man. This young man now is becoming the apex of his family to where he manages stuff. We all share the same responsibilities now. The respect factor of him as a player, though, Kayla, is going to come in the consistency of practice, how he is with his teammates, and what he does inside of those stadiums. Mm-hmm. And I say it's super unique for a guy like Tavondre because if I'm thinking how I would expect Jeff to be with him, it's probably been hard on him. I can see even a guy like Arden and the coaches getting Arden and Harold to understand, hey, I need y'all on his ass, okay? Because if you after him and his weight is in check and his focus is right, then everybody else around him will eat. Like, it sucks that this much pressure is going in on Tavondre Sweat like this as far as what he needs to do this year to make this defense better. But I think this is the type of guy that Denard Wilson wants to set a tone. Like, he can be a pillar of what a defense is moving forward. And I think that's why it's important for the vets around him to be on him. I'll say this. If Tavondre Sweat goes out and be the game record that we want him to be, not what we think, what we want him to be, I worry less about the linebackers. I worry less about how they're going to do in coverage. Because if he can push the pocket and him and Jeff can run games up front, or Harold and Rashad Weaver and Arden Key can get after the quarterback, we're not talking about linebackers in coverage, right? That's why I think it's important, at least in this year one. The cool guy, I'm fine with that. If you get a sack, if you get a TFL, if you free up the lane for the linebackers to shoot and make a tackle for loss. Like, I'm cool with him rubbing his stomach, throwing his hands up. He can hit a backflip for all I care.
That would be impressive.
You know what I'm saying? But that's the expectation for a guy like him. There's a lot on the line as far as his career, the stigmas around him, people's perceptions. So I look at his vets and say to them, stay on him, because the payoff is going to be immaculate if they get half of what we think he is as a football player.
One more thing I wanted to get to real quick, just to show the other side of Sweat and maybe what you get as a guy in the locker room, which is always a good thing to keep it light when you're in there and build the culture. This is his former Texas teammate John Day Barron on Tavondre Sweat when he's not on the field.
Like, we could be in a close game and he'd say a joke to me. Like, this is not the time.
Like in the middle of the game.
Like, come on, like this is not the time. Like, why are you playing right now? Like, but that was him being serious though. Like, that was just him. Like, like even though I was probably so serious at the time, like even though it was a joke, it really wasn't a joke. Like, it was just him being him. And but that's those great players though. They can be like all funny like that, but they're still about business. So shout out to T Sweat for that.
No doubt.
I love the Babs no doubt at the end.
No doubt.
I could have cut that out, but I wanted to leave it in there for her street cred.
Right?
Yeah.
No diggity, no doubt. Did you have like a player at all that you played with that kind of had that personality that made it fun, you know, to play the game, but you knew he was also going to do his job?
Probably, I'll be honest with you, I was the jokester.
Yeah. See, why didn't I just know that was the answer?
Who else was like that? AB joked around a good bit.
Antonio Brown.
Antonio Brown joked around a little. Mike Wallace was a funny guy. Mike Wallace was a funny guy out there, but consistently joking and breaking the ice.
That was you?
Yeah, for the most part.
I always liked Mike.
Mike was a solid dude.
Mike Wallace.
A great teammate. Mike Wallace, Ole Miss alum, man. Awesome. I bet you did love Mike. Why did you love Mike?
I think he set a record. Playing you guys.
Trying to go to commercial.
Oh, is it?
He is now directing and producing the show, Bert.
What is wrong with you, Bert?
Oh, goodness. Well, we will continue to check in on SEC Media Days. I know we got some good stuff from 3HL on Will Levis, so we'll get into that a little bit later in the show. Coming up next, though, ESPN ranked their top 100 athletes since 2000. But look, I have a little bit of beef with the top 5. At least someone who's missing from that. We'll kind of explain.
Can't wait to hear.
Yeah, coming up next on RKW 104.5, The Zone.
Hey, it's Will Bowling here for my friends at Lee Company. You hear me talk about these guys and what it's like to put Lee Company on your team and stay ahead of the game with home maintenance, repairs, and more. Look, in a climate that is as unpredictable as Middle Tennessee's, this is a fantastic offer. For $12 per month, you can sign up for the Lee Company Home Maintenance Plan and receive 4 visits to your home every year by an experienced technician. Let the Lee Company professionals keep your air conditioning, heating, plumbing, and electrical systems in tip-top shape. You're going to stay ahead of Mother Nature when you put Lee Company on your team with the home maintenance plan for the low price of just $12 a month. 615-567-1000. You got to learn more at leecompany.com or give them a call. 615-567-1000. Your AC, heating, plumbing, and electrical systems all taken care of by Lee Company. Online at leecompany.com. That's Lee Company. All you need.
Welcome back into RKW. It's Friday morning. We're acting like we got a little Bone Thugs going on. Maybe you're bobbing in your car. This always gets me in the groove here. All right. So I've got some beef. I got some major beef with ESPN. I think you guys have some beef with them too.
Yeah, got a little tension.
Just a little bit. Crack our knuckles here. Well, this is a poll. It was more than 70,000 votes from ESPN contributors to create their top 100 list. ESPN ranks their top 100 athletes since 2000. I'm going to give you the top 5. Sorry, my charger fell out, and my computer's so bad that if the charger falls out and is not charged up, it will die.
I've been there.
Giving you a little insight on my computer there.
You needed that power surge right there.
Power surge. So the top 5 guys, Michael Phelps, heck of an athlete.
I honestly am not opposed to Michael Phelps. He is a unique fish.
Won a lot of medals.
At
the top level.
Yeah.
Is he still the greatest Olympian, or did the gymnast pass him? Her name escapes me.
Simone Biles?
Correct. So did Simone pass him?
I don't think yet. Simone, now she might get an opportunity in these Olympics in Paris in a few weeks. That is a good question.
28 golds. Go ahead, Kayla.
No,
keep talking. I'll go
I
after
think
that.
he's on top.
She's got 29. She's got 29 events.
29 events, but it golds in the Olympics.
Golds in it.
I
It
think
might just be Michael.
Yeah, I think he still probably owns that.
Yeah.
So, and we'll get to Simone Biles in a second. She did not make the top 5, which I could argue, especially after seeing her documentary on Netflix yesterday.
Right.
Holy smokes, she is unreal. Okay, number 2, Serena Williams. Do we agree with this one, everybody?
I ain't overly imposed. I
but
mean,
you said Venus did just as much as Serena
Venus did. So we'll get to why I feel how I feel after you finish rounding this
Okay,
out.
so Michael Phelps, Serena Williams, Lionel Messi.
Okay.
At number 3. I mean, he is, I think, arguably the greatest soccer player we've ever seen.
Yeah.
And number 4, this is where I have a bit of a problem. Look, I like LeBron James. I think he's a heck of an athlete. I think he is just playing at the age he is. It's incredible. But I don't know when I'm going to say some other names here if he was worthy of number 4. So LeBron James at 4. And then Tom Brady at 5. Look, I know he's accomplished a lot and he's the GOAT when it comes to quarterbacks. But when you're talking about athlete, that word just hits different for me. And I feel like there's some other people who could have been in that top 5 that maybe we're missing. I even would have put in Tiger Woods maybe.
Yeah.
Just because he changed the sport of golf and did it at a level that nobody could ever match up to for so long.
Yeah. So this list to me is an accomplishments and longevity list. I do think what Phelps has done, as nobody's ever done what he's done before, 28-time Olympic medalist, 23 gold medals, that is iconic. It is. I think LeBron should be higher. I'm going to put LeBron above Messi. I do.
Wow.
I do. The one that should be kicked out of the top 5 is Tom Brady.
Right.
And move Simone Biles up.
But wouldn't you put Michael then? If LeBron's there, where's Michael?
Michael didn't make the list, if I'm not mistaken. I just looked through the top 100. I didn't see Michael. I saw Ed Reed on there, and I didn't see Troy Polamalu. Troy Polamalu is by far one of the best athletes I've ever seen in my life.
I mean,
and that ain't even like a Baltimore and Pittsburgh thing. But like if they understood Troy, this is an accomplishment thing.
Wow.
And again, the top 5, and we're talking about athletes, right? It should be athletes and success paired together, because if you're calling Tom Brady a top 5 athlete of all time, that is completely wrong. Absolutely not the case right there at all for me. Tiger could be moved up, and I'll even say Usain Bolt being at number 9. I mean, who's done what he's done, how he did it at the time? Like, it's not many that can say, yes, we checked that box of Usain Bolt. And Kobe Bryant being 10, I mean,
I love Kobe, but I don't know if that's worthy of 10.
This is a very fascinating list. Bert, how do you see this list?
It's tough because of the way that it's qualified. Like, if you're telling me top 5 athletes, top 100 athletes, I'm thinking like athletic prowess, like separating themselves from their peers athletically. Like, I wouldn't say that Tom Brady separated himself from anything athletically besides being a higher draft pick.
Right.
Like if he was as athletic as this list is suggesting he was, he wouldn't have been a 6th-round pick. Like, but I'm not disputing the greatness, right? I'm not disputing the Super Bowl wins or everything that he's done or his legacy. But I didn't think this list was about legacy. I thought this list was about athletics. So I was confused on the list, but I wish the parameters were more explained.
Yeah, more detailed. And by the way, Joshua Maxwell, you're right. You were talking about Michael Jordan, and I got caught up on that, and then I forgot. This is the top 100 athletes since 2000. So that makes a little bit of a difference.
That makes a little bit of a difference.
Yeah.
But even still, like they got Tim Duncan and Shaquille O'Neal at 16 and 17. And then if you're asking me on athleticism, they got Kevin Garnett at 23. KG is a better athlete than either one of those guys, in my opinion. Like, force and size goes to Shaq. 100%. What did they used to call Tim Duncan again?
The big fundamental.
For what reasons again?
Because he was very good at fundamentals.
So he was good with what the height that he was given. Now, he accomplished a lot in this. But if we're talking about style and athleticism, I mean, Olajuwon, right? Hakeem, like he's the guy as far as like fundamentals and athletic ability with his footwork. Go look at footwork. We're talking about like big fundamentals. Come on.
Yeah. I personally, after I said I watched that Simone Biles documentary and she will be in the Olympics coming up in a couple of weeks. After I watched that documentary, it was insane to know the type of athlete she is and what she does. She has like 6 or 7 things named after her that are her because she
tricks,
came up with those. It's
stunts.
Insane. I recommend you watch that
You
too.
wanna
But yeah,
kill this list?
it's really interesting.
Y'all want to kill this list
Yes,
real quick?
please.
So it's over 70,000 votes. I think it's accomplishments, longevity, and wins is why. I love him to death. He's a VFL. Peyton Manning is ranked 26, and Randy Moss is ranked 27th.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's
Can't
wrong.
have that, folks.
But that's part of hey, we're peeling back the curtain. That's what these lists are for, like for discourse.
For us to sit here and argue.
They want people to discuss this stuff and not agree with it. So people are drawn to it. You know what I mean?
We're the suckers.
Yeah,
is
we
what you're saying.
took
are.
the bait.
It's all right. It was fun
Still
while it
hot about
lasted.
it. Still
I'm
hot
still
about
hot
it.
Exactly.
about it too. Yeah,
We'll talk about it in the break.
yeah, definitely.
But coming up after the break, NFL executives high on L'Jarius Sneed. We'll discuss what impresses them about the Titans' new cornerback. That's coming up as we reach hour 2 here on RKW 104.5 The Zone.
This is your off-the-track racing report, brought to you by State Water Heaters.
Hitting the bricks. The NASCAR Cup Series heads to Indianapolis Motor Speedway for this Sunday's Brickyard 400. It marks the debut of the next-gen car on the famed 2.5-mile oval, creating some uncertainty heading into the race. William Byron and Ryan Blaney each could make history. If Byron takes the number 24 car to victory lane, it would be on the anniversary of when Jeff Gordon won the first ever Brickyard 400 in the number 24 30 years ago. For Blaney, a win would mark the first time Team Penske has won the Indy 500 and the Brickyard 400 in the same season since 2018. Team owner Roger Penske also owns the track. Broadcast start set for 1:30 Central Sunday on NBC. To the IndyCar Series, the open wheelers will compete Sunday on the streets of Toronto. The race can be watched on the Peacock app. Meanwhile, Formula One returns to action Sunday with the Hungarian Grand Prix.
This has been your off-the-track racing report, brought to you by State Water Heaters. I'm Liz Allison. If there's anything that I don't like, it's not having enough hot water. That was me way too often until I switched to a State brand tankless water heater. Not only do I never run out of hot water, but I'm saving on my utility bill every month. State Water Heaters makes gas and electric, standard efficiency to high efficiency water heaters, and of course, my personal favorite, tankless water heaters, where the hot water never runs out. Visit statewaterheaters.com and click on the Find a Local Installer link on the main page, and you'll be on your way to owning your very own State brand water heater, just like me.
What's going on? 7:03. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. A little bit of SEC Network news as former Packers wide receiver Randall Cobb joining the SEC Network as a football and studio analyst. Cobb played 13 years in the NFL, totaling over 7,600 yards with 54 touchdowns. And some update from Shams Charania this morning on Kevin Durant is expected to return to the Team USA practice today in London, his first with the Olympic team. He could make his debut in one of the exhibition games versus South Sudan on Saturday or on Germany Monday. He is returning from a calf strain he suffered in practice on July 7th. In the NBA, Clippers and Jazz agreed to a sign-and-trade deal involving Russell Westbrook. The team announced Thursday, and sources told ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski that the former MVP is expected to join the Nuggets after Utah waives him and buys out the remainder of his contract. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
We have reached hour 2 here on Ramon, Kayla, and Will on this fine Friday morning in Middle Tennessee. As always, thanks for listening. Thanks for chiming in. The F&M Bake Chat is open. We are streaming live. We are encouraging you to call us, 615-737-1045, alongside our NFL veteran. He is our VFL. It's Ramon Foster.
Yay.
I always feel like I'm doing, what is it, like an intro.
Oh, you are.
To the sporting event right now. And behind the glass, he spins the hits. He makes us laugh. It's Robert Walsh.
Our guy.
Ramon Foster.
Golly, man. You going to use Andrew?
He's using violence this morning.
Crazy.
I'm Kayla Anderson. Will Bowling has the day off. Like I said, we have our question of the day that we presented early on. We'll get a little bit more into the Derrick Henry talk a little bit later in the show. But in hindsight, now that we know that there was a trade on the table, would you have traded Derrick Henry now knowing that it could have been a 4th or possibly even 3rd round pick? Give us a call at 615-737-1045, or you can answer us on Twitter. We've got the question of the day out there right now. And as for us, Ramon Foster, he is hooked on this new show. I think I have watched every show out there on Netflix. But hey, this is about the only time we can do it, because next week, it is all football, baby. We are starting up training camp, and from there, it's going to be the season starting.
It is. I had just a little bit of leisure time yesterday. I played college football yesterday, NCAA college football.
Wait, you played
25. I did. Yeah, I did. I almost posted what I did online, but I was like, I'm not going to be the mean guy. But I ended up beating Vandy like 93-10 yesterday.
I'm not going to post it, but let me tell you about the score I ran up.
3-10.
I did. I played on freshman mode though, so I'm not bragging.
Boo.
I had to get my.
You had to get your stick right. Come on, man.
I did. Phrasing.
Y'all, it's too early for that. Come on, man.
Why are you like this?
You know that is not. We'll make it and we'll run with it.
We will run with it. But no, I was trying to get my feet wet on the new video game. That might be my one and only time playing it. It is a cool game, Kayla. I know they've talked a lot about
legit.
it, but it is a legit game. You say what you want to about a person's team, right? Pro team. I think people will deal with you trashing a pro team. You just, like, college teams, they hit you a little bit different. Yeah, they hit you a little bit different.
What was your favorite part about the game?
My favorite part about the game was the good players were actually pretty good. Like, James Pierce was making, like, crazy plays. I think he ended the game yesterday with, like, 5 sacks. We had total 11 sacks on the season. Nico's arm is elite on there. Really? And, like, true speed, like, using Squirrel White on there, like, showed like true speed. It was really crazy. It really was. Like, I think they mocked it up pretty fairly. Bert, what's your assessment this week?
Yeah,
your weekend.
I know. Have you played a lot, Bert, this week?
I have played more than I would like to admit. I got through a dynasty league, and I will say that the team over at College Football 25 really does like Nico because the Vols did not perform well. I think they only had 8 wins, and Nico still won the Heisman on my game. So,
dang.
So they're a big fan of Nico over there. I have some minor issues. Like it seems their information on East Carolina is a little outdated.
Okay.
Nobody does the finger hooks anymore. Like you used to throw your index finger and crook it and be like, arg.
Okay.
We don't
And
do
that's
that anymore. Now
they
throw up crossbones now, kind of like what Nebraska does.
What's that? Like this?
Yeah. You just throw
Okay, I like
the
that.
X up pretty much.
I like
and
that.
So they don't have that updated. And every time we score, they say, touchdown, Purple Pirates, which is not a thing. It has never been a thing. They have never been the Purple Pirates. So I would like those things fixed tomorrow, please.
I agree, though. I honestly would take offense to that.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I would say get down here and actually get the facts right on what we do.
They don't have the cannons going off when even in the old games,
Come on,
we
now,
had the
that's
cannons going off.
disrespect.
Come on, help us out, man.
You gotta respect his ECU Pirates here.
Real quick shout out, too, if y'all don't mind. It's
Is it
Friday,
shout out
Friday.
time?
Yeah, just
Is it Friday
quick one.
shout out time?
Yeah, it is, man. Shout out to my guy Tybo, man. They just won Goodlettsville Little League team.
Yeah.
Just won state and are going to Williamsport now. So Warner Robbins. So they got to do the Southeast division right there. So shout out to the Goodlettsville Little League team. My guy Tybo, man, definitely
Like
is leading the
Tybo,
trip.
like back in the day, like Tybo?
Ty's his
Like,
name.
okay.
Yeah, Campbell. That's his last name. So shout out to them leading that team.
Nice, Goodlettsville.
They've been fighting Nolensville and Murfreesboro for a long time to get out of the state. So they finally cracked north of the city right here. Nashville.
That's
north
awesome.
Up here.
So
Absolutely.
one more, and then to see if they get into
Williamsport.
That's going to be
but
really
they got to
fun
go
if they
through the
do.
Georgia teams, and you know how it goes. The Georgia teams and North Carolina, they got to fight through all of that. So.
Well, we're rooting for our Tennessee team right here in Goodlettsville. Congratulations, guys. So L'Jarius Sneed, no doubt, was probably one of the best ads in the offseason, and a big ad at that. I don't think Titans fans are used to maybe getting these types of free agents that at least have a little bit more left in their career. Like, we've seen some big name ads, but they've been after their prime. It looks like L'Jarius Sneed is still in his prime as a cornerback. So your good friend Jeremy Fowler, who has joined the show many times, talked with NFL executives, coaches, and scouts. And they, ESPN that is revealing its positional rankings based on the opinions of those 3 NFL executives, coaches, and scouts. And Tennessee Titans cornerback L'Jarius Sneed made the cut at his position. He comes in at number 4, Ramon. One NFC offensive coach said, he's such a pain in the beep. You are in for a long day when you play him. He can struggle with the quick, shiftier players, but with the bigger body receivers, he can dominate as a physical press corner because of his physicality, and he's always up for a challenge, says one AFC defensive coach.
Well, that fits perfectly here in the AFC South then with the receivers that you have, right? I mean, you got to look at what Indy has. Nico Collins down there in Houston, and down at Jacksonville right now, Gabe Davis, and also, what's his name? The quick guy. Well, if he won't have to see the quick guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nico Collins. That's talking about in Jacksonville, the other wide receiver.
Oh, in Texas.
Yeah. No.
In Jacksonville.
In Jacksonville, yes.
They've got the LSU kid.
Yes.
Is it Brian
so
Thomas?
Michael Thomas Jr. Yeah, they have him too. So that's right up the alley, man. Again, here's the thing too about L'Jarius Sneed being one of those guys is, again, your profile has changed. That's one of the things I think in signing these types of dudes this offseason. Him and Cheeto, you got a top 5 as it pertains to the way GMs and scouts and coaches see your cornerback and L'Jarius Sneed, man. Again, I understand that people are going to be worried about his knee and health and stuff like that, but all in all, if he shows up, then you know you at least got the passing game on lock. Again, the moves that were made with Denard Wilson and the type of guys that he wants. You said they described him as a pain in the arse, right? That's what we're talking about. Like, everybody that has come into the fold this year has been described as attacking, has been described as aggressive, right?
Yeah.
That's the same thing that goes for Kenneth Murray, right? I don't know what his role is going to be, but it seems to me that there's a method in which Denard Wilson has that his defense is going to be attack first and watch everybody lay. And I love that about what this defense is somewhat turning into, and just honestly keeping pace with the rest of the NFL too. Like if you're going to make plays, and you got to go get playmakers. And right now the Titans have a list of good names that you can recognize across the NFL. Jerry Sneed is one of those dudes.
Yeah, he absolutely is. It is funny when you look at the personalities. You know, obviously what they do on the field is the most important, but the personalities they've added to this defense, and clearly they might add another in terms of that safety position, but they are all that aggressive attacking style and just the attitudes as well. So it will be interesting to just see how different this defense can look, and we'll get a preview of it with training camp starting up next week. Coming up after the break, at this time, every time on Friday, 7:20, our good friend Brent Hubs joins us. We will get his takeaways from SEC Media Day, specifically what he thought about Tennessee's appearance and the latest on the recruiting trail. That's coming up next. RKW 104.5 The Zone.
Hey, what's going on? It's Will Bowling. I'd like to tell you about my friends at Brentwood Hearing Center. Do you have hearing loss? Maybe you're wearing hearing aids, but you don't want to wear them around water. You're in the pool. You're at the lake. Maybe you're headed to the beach. You're in the ocean. Well, Brentwood Hearing Center has the solution for you. Hearing devices that are waterproof. That's right. Hearing aid wearers can now enjoy being around water while wearing their hearing aids, enjoying all those sounds of friends and family. You can be in the pool and still hear the conversation happening right beside you. The Phonak Lumity Life. That is the world's only hearing aid that is completely waterproof, and one of my family members even has them. At Brentwood Hearing Center, you go there, you get hooked up, you get checked out, and they're going to take care of you with the latest technology just like this. 615-377-0420 to learn more about this great technology, or visit Brentwood Hearing Center online at brentwoodhearingcenter.com. That's 615-377-0420. Brentwood Hearing Center. Better hearing, better life.
Welcome back into RKW here on Friday morning. And when it hits 7:20, you know that is time for our good friend Brent Hubs of VolQuest join us. You can also tell by the music choice. Brent, I hope we always get it right.
Well, I'm in the bean patch this morning, so Jerry Reed talking about getting the shaft seems pretty appropriate for me today, to be honest with you. So, yeah, that's an excellent choice of music this morning by the master pushing the buttons in the back.
Right? Robert Walsh.
He brings it.
He knows. He does.
Give him that. See, he'll save that and use it as a promo for himself
Ramon.
right there, Hub.
Don't you dare.
Well, I'm trying to redeem myself after last week with him, so I'm trying to make myself feel better about the great Robert Walsh.
That's right. Did you see our draft this week at all, Brent?
I did see your draft this week. I thought we took a lazy way out when we just drafted like 5 superheroes.
Thank you.
I mean, like, you drafted the DC team, which was like whatever. I mean, if that's what you want to do. But yeah, I saw the draft. There's a little creativity involved in there. It's not good summertime topic, right? We all need football. That's what it boils down to. We all need football.
Exactly.
Yes,
and we'll get it soon enough. Hey, we had a little bit of football this last week in Dallas for SEC Media Days. Just curious really quick of your takeaway with Tennessee and the day that they represented.
Well, I'm not surprised that there was a lot you knew the 2 questions going in were going to be Nico questions and Josh Heupel going home to Oklahoma. You knew that was what was going to be the topic of choice. And, I know Josh Heupel got pretty annoyed with all the Oklahoma questions because he didn't just get it in the main room. He got it in all the auxiliary rooms. The TV room was full of people from, Oklahoma and Texas, and that's all they wanted to talk about. But I thought he handled that question fine. He's going to get that question many more times, I'm sure, between now and that game. And then the Nico stuff, you knew was going to be the talk. And, I think Tennessee went in and wanted to be low-key. I think they were pretty low-key, got in and out, got back to work, and that makes nobody happier than Josh Heupel, who doesn't – nice guy, but he doesn't exactly love doing media.
Yeah.
He's never going to be a retired football analyst. So it's one of those things where he was just happy to get through and get to the house and, didn't go viral on YouTube for anything or on Twitter, so – that means you had a solid day if you're a coach and a group of players out there.
Yeah, and now you focus on, soon enough, training camp, fall camp, starting up here soon. And I know there's always the obvious storylines, Brent, but I would assume when you've got these guys here and you're trying to develop some of these guys, there's always some underlying stories in terms of just guys for the future at some of these starting positions. Anybody in particular that sticks out to you?
That's a great question. I think that you've got to find a backup center, and you really need a backup center for now, but they've been looking for a backup center for about 3 years, Ramon. And, Cooper May's a good player. He's been a good player, but, he does run out of eligibility. I mean, they're going to make him move on at some point. And, right now I think Dane Davis is the backup center, but that's another senior. You need to find a young guy that you feel really comfortable building around for the future. And I think that's a big priority in fall camp because you're not going to beat Cooper Mays up. There's no point in doing that in fall camp. You've experimented with Vyson Lang for a year. I'm not sure that's the answer. I'm not sure anybody feels like that's the answer. He's had every chance to run with the backup job. He's not the backup center right now, which tells me he may never be a center in college. So, one of these other freshmen that have arrived at midterm on the offensive line, somebody's got to run with the center job because I don't think that's a position you can go in the portal and find a guy to learn this offense in a short window and be ready to play. So you really got to develop that on your roster. So I think when you talk about underlying stories, big picture, long-term type thing, I think center is at the top of that list. Now, there's some other young players that need to continue to develop, but I think from a priority standpoint, that center spot's one you've got to get a pretty good answer to sometime this fall camp and certainly sometime this season. You got to know where you're going at center when the season is over. You've got to have a pretty good plan in place there, I think.
No doubt. Brent Hubs with us of VolQuest on 3 this morning. Hubs, that's kind of where I wanted to go this morning. The War Room is up right now. You talk about a lot of things in there, man. But go ahead and subscribe to that if you haven't. Good people, okay? And follow Hubs, too, on social media.
God bless you. God bless you.
You like the little promo I gave you, right?
Checks in the mail. Checks in the mail.
You know what I'm saying? I'll take that $2. It's cool. But you mentioned a little bit of this youth movement that has to happen this time around in camp, man. What do you mean by that? Who's a couple of guys you need to step up to have this team clicking the right way before the season kicks off?
Well, I think when you look at him at linebacker, look, we all love Keenan Peely. I think Keenan Peely's a gregreat story. He's 26. He can rent a car. He can do things that half your team can't do, more than half your team can't do, right? Yeah. He's healthy. He feels good. But what's it look like beside him? What's it look like around him? Jeremiah Telander generated a lot of buzz. I think he had something like 35 tackles over the last 5 games or something like that last year as he played more and more snaps. But he's still a young football player. Arian Carter's got all the talent in the world. I love Arian Carter. I love him athletically. I thought they put him in some tough situations last year at times, and he handled himself fine. But he's a sophomore. He's not been an every-down player. And so while you've got a bunch of vets in a lot of places, you got some youth at receiver outside of Squirrel White and Brew McCoy. You've got some youth at linebacker. You know, everybody's banking on Ethan Davis being a really good tight end. The guy's played 3 football games in college, and he's going to be the starter. You know, unless one of these transfers beats him out. So that's what I mean by youth. They have a nice collection of veteran players, particularly on the defensive line. I mean, Rodney Garner's got grown men playing on the defensive line. Old dudes, some dudes who could be in their second year in the National Football League who are playing college football because of the COVID year. So they're good in that position. But there's other spots where they've got to have some youth guys who just can't be youth guys for a long time. They got to go fast. You know, you look at them, I like Dylan Sampson, but what do you have behind Dylan Sampson? Well, you got one game of Cam Seldon in the bowl game where he rushed for over 100 yards, looked good, but he's coming off shoulder injury. Peyton Lewis has never taken a college football snap in practice, much less a game. Right. We're talking about practice for a moment.
Okay.
You know, okay?
Yeah.
You know, and it's a situation where those guys just have to, you know, they got to grow up in a hurry. And when you played, you know, you had those guys, whether it was in the NFL with the Steelers, when you drafted somebody, you said, this dude's not a developmental guy. He's got to go right now. Yeah. Even if he wasn't a first-round pick, we got to have somebody step in and play this position or that position. And you had that in college where it was like, all right, your time is now. It's not another year in the weight room. It's not another year to learn the system. Like, you got to go now because we have to have you. And there's a handful of those guys like that at certain positions on this team. And that's what Josh Heupel was talking about in Dallas, about you don't have time to be a young player. You got to grow up in a hurry. And there's some guys like that.
Yeah. It's fascinating, too. We speak about the SEC Media Days in Dallas also. And Coach Saban had a nice comment, if you take it the right way. And he mentioned Coach Heupel, right? As he said, you're probably the only guy that's mad I'm retiring. Hubs, is that right there, that statement from the GOAT, the guy himself, Nick Saban, telling Josh Heupel, you're probably the only one that's mad that I'm retiring, considering you hung 52 on us. Is that what this team can be moving forward? If he coaches it right, if discipline is right, they get the right players, does that somewhat signifies what the Vols can do?
Well, I think what Nick Saban was saying, and by the way, it was the Saban experience this week in Dallas, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
He got more exposure than the coaches there. For a league where it just means more, you know, it's like the Saban Experience Conference. It's like, you guys realize he's not going to be on the sidelines this fall, right?
Right.
I mean, we can stop with all the Saban love right now.
Yep.
He did but I did think he did a good job as an analyst. And I think what he was saying, if you go back and look at Josh Heupel in 3 years against Nick Saban never really solved him. Okay? I mean, you go back to that first year, they were so one-sided, Tennessee was, because they were beat up on the offensive line. They couldn't run, they couldn't run to the right. They could only run to the left. But that game was a football game in the third quarter. Yeah. Because Tennessee was throwing it over their head. They were big playing them. Then we know what happened in 22, right?
Yeah.
And you look back at last year at 23, I mean, what's that game look like if Tennessee executes in the red zone better? What's it look like if Josh Heupel doesn't go for it on 4th down in his own territory twice? You know, I mean, Tennessee had a chance to really jump on Alabama early, and they just missed some opportunities in the red zone. But they threw it over their head again. They had people open yet again. And I think what Nick was saying, not just in that comment, but in some other comments that he made, was just about how challenging the offense is. And we all wondered, right, after a year in this system, in the league, would everybody figure Josh Heupel out? Because that's what you spend your all-season studying the team that gives you the most trouble. You know Nick Saban spent a ton of time working on Tennessee after the 21 season heading into the 22 season, and he still had no answer. And so I think that's the encouraging thing for Tennessee fans moving forward is when Tennessee has enough of the right weapons and a quarterback who can do it and make the right decisions, you're not going to just dominate everybody because obviously they haven't dominated Georgia. There's been some other teams that have been but this is not a gimmick system, okay? And everybody who wants to call it Mickey Mouse and gimmicky and all this other stuff, they're wrong about this offensive system. They run for 2,500 yards a year. They're right at the tops of the SEC in running the football. They spread you out. They cause you all kinds of matchup problems. And then when they've got the right weapons at the right positions, they can really expose you vertically down the field, and that's what they were able to do against Alabama. They had Nick Saban's defense befuddled for 3 seasons, and that's what Nick Saban's talking about.
No doubt about it, man. Also helps, too, when you got protection. That's kind of where I want to go. Brent Hubs with us this morning. I have to ask you because one of them I can't even play with on NCAA college football, okay, and that's the Lance Hurt. But what is this tandem of tackles for the Vols offensively as far as John Campbell and Lance Hurt? Are they in good shape? I know John Campbell's moved over to the right. What can you tell us about them over the summer so far?
Well, I think, Hurd is a guy who he wants it really bad. He's tired of not playing, and that's why he left LSU. So he's a very driven, very hungry individual who wants to get on the field and show everybody what he can do and why he was so highly rated. I thought he had a really good spring. I think he's built on that. He is in solid shape. I think his weight's right where they want it to be. I think everything is good with Hurd. With Campbell, I think his buy-in on the right side has been good. I think with John, there's always a health thing. I think there's another level of focus for John, and I think it's better than it's been. I think there's always a level there, and I think the veterans on this group can help him that way. I think they're going to be fine across the board on the offensive line. I know they're looking for a left guard, but I've seen this offensive line mix and match for 3 years and move the ball on people and run the football on people. And I think they're going to be okay. Are they going to be perfect? No. Will they give up some pressures? Yeah, but they got a quarterback who can get out of the way. I think, even though he got sacked 6 times in the bowl game, I think he'll be much better as the season goes along in terms of recognizing pressure, handling pressure, making decisions that way. They can run him some, and I think they're going to be okay up there. Are they going to be is there a Darnell Wright? Is there a top 10 draft pick on this offensive line? We'll see what Hurd develops into. But right now there's not. But I do think that there can be an effective offensive line. And I think they've got good leadership when you talk about Cooper Mays and Javonte Spraggins. When you look at all the games that they've played, they know exactly what they're getting into and are making sure everybody else knows what they're getting into as well.
Our good friend Brent Hubs joining us this morning on RKW. He does this every Friday at 7:20. Excellent work at VolQuest that he does. And Brent, when we talk about recruiting, you guys are the place for all the recruiting news. Speaking of that, Atlanta area linebacker Christian Gass, where is Tennessee with him? I believe you guys said he is going to commit on Saturday, correct?
Yes. Yep, that's correct. He will commit tomorrow afternoon. Tennessee has had the momentum, and they have been trending there. And I think Tennessee remains in solid shape with him. You never know. Now, I was on this show a couple of weeks ago, and I think I told you guys Tennessee was in great shape with Deshaun Brame, a tight end from out of Kansas, who was set to come to Tennessee. And then basically in the midnight hour, flipped to Oregon. And now he's talking about taking a visit to Tennessee here in the next couple of weeks. Wow. So we'll see what happens with that. But my point is you can feel really good about people and based on everybody you talk to, talking to the kid and all those things, and anything can happen. But right now you feel good about where Tennessee's at. I think they've had the momentum with with Christian since the visit was over. Tennessee did a really good job selling him on what his versatility could be in this defense. He's not pigeonholed into one thing. He's not just a downhill blitzing linebacker, inside guy. They believe he can play inside and outside. He can play in space. And some of the things that he wanted to know for his long-term future. If he's going to have a chance to play at the next level, he didn't want to be just labeled as just, a blitzing linebacker, so to speak. And I think he feels very comfortable with Tim Banks. I think he feels comfortable where this system is right now, and linebackers coach William Inns. So we'll see what he does tomorrow. But I think Tennessee's in a situation where they can have a pretty nice close to the month of July here, and then there'll be a lot of focus on the middle of August when David Sanders makes his decision.
Is Jaden Perlotte still in the mix for the Vols, too? I see he's slated to be
Yep, he's slated to be here next weekend for I think this is going to be the last summer for this last weekend in July open recruiting period, which really doesn't make any sense. You just should leave it closed. I think they're going to leave the whole month of July closed moving forward. There's not a high school coach in the country who's excited about one of their players going on trips next weekend with scrimmages and everything that they're doing for high school. So it really makes no sense to have this open period. I think this is the last one we'll do it. But Perlotte will be up here for that, and I think Tennessee remains in solid shape there. Now, Florida State's pushing, trying to get him. He's not going to be a part of Georgia's class where he's being committed, but he's, I think Tennessee's in a good spot. I think they would love to take Christian and Jaden Perlotte and be done at linebacker and roll right along. And I think that's a very realistic possibility for Tennessee with where they stand right now with both those two young men.
Man, I've been meaning to ask you this for like 3 weeks, Hubs, but is there any game day construction at Neyland that the fans have to worry about this fall? We hadn't really spoke about that, and I know there's a lot of stuff going on in front and around the stadium.
Well, my biggest concern, and I was over there yesterday taking some pictures because I try to put some updates in the war room, and by the way, the press box at Lindsey Nelson Stadium is completely, all that's left is the steel beams there, so they're about done with that. But at Neyland Stadium, the student gate and the steps and the ramp for the student gate is going up. My biggest concern right now with Neyland Stadium is, and they'll get it done, but there has been a ditch in Philip Fulmer Way, the road there in front of the stadium, that's about 100 yards long that you got to have an extension ladder to get down in. I don't know. I'm no engineer. I don't know what we're doing utility-wise there. I don't know if that's sewer. I don't know if that's steam plant issue, water line issue. Whatever it is, it's deep, and it's a long hole. I joked with somebody the other day, if they don't get it fixed, we're all going to look like, Mario diving down into the sewer drains in Super Mario Brothers, because they just disappeared. That road is, I'm telling you, it is deep right now. They'll have to get fixed. But if you're driving on campus right now, it is an orange cone city, man. I mean, they got roads closed. There's detours. They got a lot to get done before August, the middle of August, when students return to campus for school, but they'll get there. You're going to be able to use a good bit of that new concourse. They're just not going to have everything done in terms of concessions and restrooms, but it is going to be more wide open. You're going to be able to walk. It's going to be more free, and it's going to be super nice when it gets done. And they have put in a ton of work. I mean, they were working overtime yesterday to try to get everything ready, but it's a 2-year project, but you're not going to notice it or be bothered by it. I think when it's all said and done here in another month.
See, he does it all. He does recruiting, he does everything, Vols, and he does traffic updates. So
I'm picking beans
exactly.
this morning.
I am picking beans. That's exactly what I'm doing right now.
Hey, say so for us.
I go over there. I'm curious to see. I kind of like construction stuff, and I like to see progress.
Yeah,
what they're doing, and this is such a mammoth project on the south end. I mean, this is a project that's taken 2 decades to get people moved. I mean, Ramon, when you were playing, they were talking about doing that.
I know.
It's just taken a long time to do. By the way, they did put some walls up in the expansion to the Anderson Training Center this week, which is the first movement we've really seen there in about a year, it seems like, because it's not been the biggest priority, but they are making some movement on the new Players Lounge there as well. So Danny White's got cranes everywhere on Tennessee's campus right now, and Don D. Plowman's following suit with their new nursing building and all kinds of stuff. So we got a lot of cranes. We're not the national.
I was just gonna say, right?
But we do we're like Nashville Light right
Yes.
now on Tennessee's campus. Let's put it that way.
Yes, Nashville Junior over
Bud
there.
Light version of
exactly.
Nashville.
We appreciate you always, Brent Hubs, every 7:20 on Friday. Go check his work out at VolQuest. Thanks so much, Brent.
Thanks, Hubs.
Thanks, guys. Have a great rest of the week.
You
all right?
too.
Good weekend. See ya.
I love it. So be careful when you're going to games this year. Just know what you're getting into in terms of a lot of orange cones, like he said, hanging around there. We shift gears when we return. Okay, so Tiger Woods, another Open, another struggle. So I have a question to pose to you, Ramon Foster, about Tiger Woods and his future. That's coming up next here on RKW 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back into RKW. Maybe you're listening to us while you're getting the news about the power outages as you make your way to BNA. Be careful. Don't get too frustrated. Hey, if you're waiting for your flight, just pop us on.
Yeah.
We are streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch.
Twitch, please.
You can also chime in on the FNM Bake chat, or you can give us a call, 615-737-1045. The Open is happening right now. And if there's anybody more frustrated than those that are dealing with power outages and all the other outages, it probably is Tiger Woods. And right now at the Open at Royal Troon Golf Course in Scotland, Shane Lowry leads the way at 5 under. We are underway with round 2 right now. Tiger Woods also underway with round 2, and it's not good, y'all. He is obviously not going to make the cut, but he is now at 13 over. That is tied for 151st. Only 2 players are worse than him right now at the Open.
Tiger,
I know.
You could, man.
So it poses the question that I want to ask you, Ramon, because we all know Tiger is the GOAT, and what he did for golf is, I mean, it's hard to argue he's not one of the best athletes, like we were saying, in the world of all time. But he is clearly continuing to deal with just the effects of what it's done to his body. And his body has gone through a lot. I mean, back surgeries, you name it, he deals with it. And it's just really hard for him now in even the selected majors that he's playing in for him to be able to really compete at that level anymore. Is it something where maybe at some point he says to himself, okay, I just, because it's not going to allow my body to do it, I'm going to go ahead and retire? Or is it something you think he'll never retire and he'll continue to do this and put his body, in the pain that he goes through just because that's the competitor he is? And is it still good for golf when we're seeing him finish here a lot of the times towards the end in the majors?
I think it's good for golf, not great for Tiger. And here's the thing, too, about Tiger is that this is what also made him great, too. The mindset to never quit, never die, to always be the best, the greatest. I've played with some guys, and they meant it, and somewhat are doing it or did it. Said they're going to have to carry me off this field. And they mean it. Like, I'm 10 toes down. I had a guy tell me I'm going to go until my body breaks down. And he's still playing to this day. And that's the greatness of some people, too. And I'll say this, and I'm not sure if it's true or not, but Tiger might have a partnership with the PGA or whoever to at least show up and play. Right? Or it's the idea that, look, if I sleep right, I take the right meds, I work out right and do everything together, I still have that Tiger in me. And that's the same thing that made him great. That's the same thing that made us fall in love with him, was the idea that he was the ultimate competitor. So I don't blame him. Is it sad to see? Yeah, it is, because you know what the greatness was. And I think the presence of Tiger brings the conversation, brings the TV, and even if he's doing bad right now, this may be a template for somebody else down the line to say, I know when to say when. Tiger just doesn't know how to say it right now because, again, his injuries isn't like he was running into folks or, like football injuries. Like, it was the car wreck that did it, know, and a lot of other things that it's when you're not ready, it's hard to convince you to just pick yourself up by your bootstraps and go bow out. And then again, with the way golf is set up, like, is he ready for the senior tour?
And that's the thing, you have to be a certain age, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, he has to, I ain't gonna say he has to show up. Yeah, he has to show up for himself. Mm-hmm. It ain't even for anybody else at this point. Like, at this point, a lot of folks will be publicly embarrassed. But for Tigers, I'm still here. I probably still beat 99% of the world.
He has nothing really to prove. He's already proven it. And I'm sure people would love to see him win one more major. I don't know if that can happen just because with the track record here in the last couple of years and where he's finished in these majors. And just the fact of the matter is he's not getting any younger. You've got all these other guys who are up and coming. I'd love to see him win another major. I don't think it's going to happen.
It's going to be tough.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to be tough.
All right. Hour 2 in the books, y'all. We are on to Hour 3, RKW. And when we return, it is a wrap on SEC Media Days in Dallas, our takeaways, and plus, Mark Stoops, the former head coach of Will Levis at Kentucky, gives his thoughts on the Titans quarterback. That's coming up next on RKW here on 104.5 The Zone.
It's Ramon and Kayla here for Window Nation. Kayla, listen, if they got old, inefficient windows, guess what? They're probably costing themselves hundreds of dollars a year in energy bills. And what's so cool about Window Nation is Windows is all they do. They are truly professionals. And their professional installation teams, they usually have over 10 years of experience. They do a 50-point inspection on every window before it leaves the factory. That's how detailed they are, Kayla.
Yeah, they absolutely are. And at this time of the year, maybe before the winter time hits, is a good time to get those windows replaced. And it doesn't just happen to be in old houses. A lot of these new houses don't have the quality windows that you need to be able to save on your energy bills. That's something everybody wants to do, especially in this economy, whether that be keeping the AC in or the heat during the winter time. And our friends at Window Nation, they will do it right. They are trusted with over 200,000 homeowners. And you can give them a call today and get in on their offer. Buy 2 windows, get 2 free. Plus, no down payments, no interest, and no payments for 24 months. You can give them a call at 866-90-NATION, or you can simply learn more at windownation.com.
What's going on? 8 o'clock. Good morning. Happy Friday from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh, former Packers wide receiver Randall Cobb, joining the SEC Network as a college football studio analyst. Cobb played 13 years in the NFL, totaling over 7,600 yards with 54 touchdowns. Kevin Durant expected to return to Team USA practice today in London as his first with the Olympic team, and could make his debut in one of the exhibition games versus South Sudan on Saturday or versus Germany on Monday. He is returning from a strained calf he suffered in practice on July 17th. The Clippers and the Jazz agreed to a sign-and-trade deal involving Russell Westbrook, the team announced Thursday, and sources told ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski that the former MVP is expected to join the Nuggets after Utah waives him and buys out the remainder of his contract. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
We have already reached hour 3 on this Friday morning in beautiful Middle Tennessee. If you're out and about this morning, probably a good time to maybe do that bike ride or that run because the weather is pretty good right now.
It is.
It is Ramon, Kayla, and Will alongside our 11-year NFL veteran, our Vault for Life, Ramon Foster, stirring up his oatmeal this morning.
Yay.
We've got Robert Walsh making it all happen behind the glass. I'm Kayla Anderson. Will Bowling, we wish you luck on trying to make your flight because of all these outages and everything that we're hearing. It looks and sounds like BNA is a complete mess. So please be careful out there, and good luck to all of y'all that are trying to make your flights today. My goodness, what is going on? Woo!
I know, that's pretty wild right there. It's pretty much grounded almost everybody. I just love to know who are the guys or girls or people or whoever's that are solving this issue right here. Like, it's clearly a hack. It seemed like at this point. I just wish I was smart enough to like break somebody's encryption and like get through it. To like,
could you imagine being a whiz like that?
Oh my gosh! You know, I got accepted into MIT.
You did?
Hell no.
Oh, you had me there for a second.
No.
You had me there.
No.
I can be very gullible at times, okay? I'll
did
admit
not
that.
get into MIT. Maybe if you'd have caught me in my freshman year in high school. Yeah, I was cooking then, man. I was cooking the books.
What happened?
Then.
You just lost it, or
Athlete
the effort wasn't there? Yeah.
Athlete got me. I was getting
the
recruited
effort went
more.
on the field.
The effort was still high in the classroom. I was still high B, you know,
Yeah.
but like in middle school era all the way up, man, I was 93 and above.
When you didn't have to deal with all the other stuff, right?
Let my kids slip.
You would be the most dominant player in MIT football history.
He would be, wouldn't
They're
he?
a Division III school. I'm looking at their roster right now, and all of these kids look like they work at the Geek Squad.
I love it.
I mean, they supposed to. Are they better at this point? But there's
would
got to
hope
be
so.
one jock out of there, right? Like one real jock.
Like Joshua Dobbs.
Yeah, I don't even know if Dobbs is getting into MIT.
You don't think so?
Oh, Kayla.
That's a whole nother different type of part of the brain.
I mean, Bert, MIT is different.
There's it's a lot of very caucastic activity going on this team.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
None of these guys look like they have the makings of a varsity athlete.
Like, they probably had a homeschool team that they played on just so their kids can have physical activity, which is not a bad thing.
Right.
Okay. But when you go to MIT, you are like in coding classes early. You are doing, like, you probably are solving like 1,000-piece puzzles at 2 years old. You know what I'm saying?
That is
just the neurological
way too
side
much
of what
for
you
me
got
to even
going
think
on.
about this morning.
And that's just a puzzle. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're not even talking about the real coding and stuff.
That is wild to me.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that at least we do is we don't have to, be thinking about numbers every day of the week. We just get to talk about sports. And especially this time of the year, we get to talk about football. And SEC Media Days are always like a good kind of pre-game, right? A pre-funk, whatever you want to call it, into when the season actually starts. You get excited. You get the storylines coming with that. You also get, former coaches and players talking about current players that are playing in the NFL. And we'll get to something Mark Stoops said about current Titans quarterback Will Levis in just a moment. But overall, Ramon, I'm just curious. I'll give you my 3 in a minute. But curious as the 3 takeaways you took out of SEC Media Days this year in Dallas.
My 3, it starts with the coaches. I feel like every coach knows that the pressure's been raised. Like it has. Listen to each one of them talk. I saw Lane go back and forth yesterday.
With Paul Feinbaum?
Sam Pittman was there. And the other thing would be the newness, the amount of newness around each team, the transfers, their abilities to know that they're going to be they're going to be competing and will be competitive teams. I feel like almost every team has been there. And then the other one is the amount of quality quarterbacks in this division right now. I think the teams that are competing for sure all have guys that will be playing in the NFL. The SEC for a while wasn't a quarterback-centric conference. And now we're seeing that be on the forefront of almost everything from Texas to Tennessee to Georgia to Florida, A&M. I mean, Oklahoma. Everybody has a quarterback. Kentucky. Vandergriff, we spoke about him, a former 5-star transfer out of UGA. Yeah. So, the quarterback league, those are my 3 things. Coaches understand it, the transfers, and just the quality of quarterbacking play. I think it's at the top of my list. And from what Savage is telling me, Ron Slay, the star-studded effects of NIL is on
Unreal,
Front Street with the SEC right now, which is, again, if we could have did it in my era, it would have been about the same thing too. So I love it for those guys. It's a business now.
It is a business. It absolutely is. And when it's a business, that means there's more pressure to win. And, that's something that you're always going to have in the SEC. My 3 takeaways really quick before we get to the Will Levis thoughts from Mark Stoops is Texas is the new belle of the ball. There's always that team that comes in with all the talk, that comes in with, everybody's talking about them. And it's always a little annoying, right? We've had it a lot with Alabama, LSU, when Brian Kelly arrived there. Now it's Steve Sarkisian in Texas. Now they got a lot to prove. You can talk all you want. If you're Quinn Ewers, you can do all you want, but you have to now back it up. And you have the talent to do it. That's not always easy.
Right.
So that's one takeaway for me. The other one, Georgia is still the team to beat. I think as much as we want to talk about the new additions to the SEC and all of that, Georgia is still the team that has proved it and has the ability to win it all again. And then number 3, look, I'm not trying to pander to Tennessee fans, but I really do think Tennessee is flying under the radar. You heard Brent Hubs this morning say they do it quietly. They got in, they got out. Sometimes that's the best way to do it and to not have to deal with the noise. And I think Tennessee could sneak up on some people.
To your point about Texas, the noise. They are noisy right now. They are. And when you get noisy like that, we saw Colorado deal with it, right?
Absolutely.
I know that's not the same amount of talent, but when you get noisy, you get everybody's best shot.
I agree.
To your point. Yeah, you get everybody's best shot.
Back here on
So
104.5 The Zone, we're
3HL,
very
who did an
happy.
incredible job this week in Dallas at SEC Media Days, a lot of hard work that they put into that. They were able to talk with so many coaches, including Mark Stoops of Kentucky, who was obviously Will Levis's head coach back when he played for Kentucky. And this is what Stoops had to say about the current Titans quarterback.
Sorry, I was doing a little distracting
That's all right
work
there.
back here.
In the stream, if you saw it, you were just getting a little bit of Buck Rising this morning.
Yeah, we're going to throw Buck out of here. Just set that clip up. We'll cut all of this out in post.
Sure. Okay, so we obviously had our teammates 3HL in Dallas doing an incredible job this week in SEC Media Days. They were able to talk to Kentucky head coach Mark Stoops about his former quarterback and current Titans quarterback Will Levis.
What have you seen? What do you know about Will Levis that maybe we don't, that Titans fans can be excited about?
Well, again, that year kind of all came together. You bring in Liam from the NFL. You bring in Will, who really was kind of a running quarterback at Penn State, wasn't utilized very much. And, but what we did see is we saw that arm that you guys see, and we see the competitor that he is. And so, that was really kind of a magical year. And, Will came in and just played the way he plays, played so hard. You know, he's going to get tough yards when he has to. I know that's a concern in the NFL with all the games, you know, the money you put into it. But, you know, in college ball, we have to do that, right?
Yeah.
You know, and so
in the SEC especially.
But Will is just, he is just an unbelievable competitor. I think you all know that and see that. You know, if you don't see that by the way he plays, then you're not a football person. You know, but he's a great human being. He cares about his teammates. He's never going to be a guy that gets caught up in all that. He wants to win. He wants to compete. He's ultra talented and competitive, and he's only going to get better. So I love watching him.
That was Mark Stoops, head coach at Kentucky, on Will Levis, his former quarterback. And, you know, what stood out to me there is this guy just wants to win. He is a hell of a competitor, which we all know that. And kind of alluded to the fact, too, in Kentucky, you have to be a little bit more physical and put more on your plate sometimes in the college game. That's something I think we want Will Levis to be careful about here, is making sure he's smart when it comes to putting his body on the line and when he uses his legs, because we know he can do it. But now you are getting paid a lot of money to be the franchise's, you know, face and to stay healthy. So those are things that he has to work on this year. What else does he need to show, especially during training camp where you're seeing some strides from him?
I go back to the first thing I said this offseason when we were speaking about Will Levis. You know, what changes that he have to make? And I said grow up professionally, not as a person, professionally. Like when you have that grit and that grind and that fire about you, I love it. And I know the fan base love it. But the world of a quarterback is slightly different. Like he can't be George Kittle.
No,
right?
I know.
That's what I'm saying. He can't be George Kittle. He can show his emotions and get, you know, the crowd fired up and his teammates. But at this point, I think everybody knows, like Coach Mark Stoops is saying right there, he's the ultimate competitor. You don't have to worry about him checking every single box.
Right.
The boxes I want to see him check is on game day. When he has a big or low moment, a high or low moment, getting to the sideline, getting to your quarterback coach, Nick Hose, looking at the tablet, making your adjustments, going to talk to your wide receivers. Like I thought last year when he would need time to get calmed down, I'm thinking to myself, that's correction moments right there. There's no telling the defense is going to get a quick turnover. You ain't even sat down and talked to your offensive coordinator yet, right? That, to me, Kayla, is where I think he has to make the next biggest step. I think him, you know, being superhero, running, making plays with his legs, as Coach Stoops just said right there, I think the coaching staff and Coach Callahan is probably going to, you know, rope that in regardless.
Absolutely.
I think that handles itself through them personally to where they can't grab him and his emotions jump out. That's where he's got to bring it back in. Like if he make a 70-yard bomb and he's fist pumping and, you know, the Generation Xing all over across the field, I ain't got no care. I ain't got no problem with that. But get it, go to the sideline, correct, move on. All right, that's what I want to see from him, because that to me shows me that the game is more than just good and bad plays for you. You like football to me is chess in a sense. Like
a lot of those players would agree with you.
What can you do to get an edge? And that's where, to me, I want to see Will Levis take that next step.
Yeah, very fair. Good points right there. As somebody who has already proven he is a pro, and I feel like has been since he stepped out of Alabama, is Derrick Henry. And I know maybe a sensitive subject this morning. It is our question of the day, as we're now finding out that he could have been traded during the season, and the Titans could have had a fourth round, maybe third round pick from the Ravens. That's our question of the day. You can chime in on that, and we'll get into that discussion more. That is coming up next on RKW here on 104.5 The Zone.
United Structural Systems is a foundation repair and waterproofing company that has served Middle Tennessee since 1994. Yes, They have more than 25,000 satisfied residential customers. So when it's hot and dry outside, do you notice soil cracking and pulling away from your home, leaving holes or gaps next to the foundation? Do a quick walk around, okay, and see if your bricks are cracking, walls bowing, doors or windows sticking. These are all signs of possible foundation issues. Your house may be trying to tell you something. On the waterproofing side, that can include drainage and sealers, oftentimes both. Did you know that up to 50% of the air you breathe on the first floor of your home is air that came from your crawl space? So control that moisture and create a healthier home for your family by encapsulating your crawl space. Many repairs are guaranteed for the lifetime of your home too. So that warranty is always good. I told you, USS has been here since 1994. They aren't going anywhere. Unlike the new guys in town, right? You have no guarantee they will be around for a long time, so you can start using that warranty if something goes wrong. USS, we guarantee our best every single time. You can call them at 615-488-7855, or you can reach them online at ussTN.com.
You ever wonder why so many pro athletes go and use stem cell therapy? Because it works. I'm Ron Slade, retired 14-year pro basketball player, and I needed to get this done. After I went through my entire career riddled with injuries, I needed therapy, so I went to Kellum Stem Cell Institute out in Franklin. Why? Because they're the stem cell specialists. They can be yours too. They're the stem cell specialists of the Tennessee Titans. You know why? Because it works.
Make an appointment today with Kellum Stem Cell Institute.
Welcome back into RKW. Hope you guys are enjoying your Friday morning. We are, I think, having enough coffee at this point where we're feeling awake. We're feeling alive. The sun is shining in, and we're talking football. So you can't really complain much when it comes to that. So we have asked our question of the day, and we have had plenty of people chime in. We'll get to that in a minute in terms of what the poll is at. But would you have been good with Derrick Henry being traded to the Baltimore Ravens last season for a 4th-round pick that could have been a 3rd-round pick? Because that was actually the reality of the situation. Ravens general manager Eric DeCosta certainly listened when Rand Carthon and him were talking about possibly moving the Pro Bowler to Baltimore last year. But instead, Derrick Henry, as you all know, finished out the season. He got to say goodbye to the fans in that final game of the season against Jacksonville, where they won. And a lot of fans are happy with that, Ramon. But a lot of fans now, in hindsight, are saying, nah, we probably would have been okay with trading him and getting something in return.
Yeah, now, excuse me, now is the conversation in hindsight. I remember having this conversation about, do you trade Derrick? And I said, if you get anything for like a 3 or 4, that's what I thought his value was going to be. Remember last fall, a lot of people was having the conversation, we got to get a 2, we got to get a 2. No, not for guys at his age and got this amount of wear and tear on him. And I know he's an avatar. I know that, and I understand what he means to this organization also. But the quote that I think that's got everybody going from the article that DeCosta did says this, just to give more context on why we're having this conversation. DeCosta agreed to the framework of a trade with Tennessee general manager Rand Carthon, a 4th-round pick that could have become a 3rd had Henry reached certain production levels. However, others in the Titans hierarchy apparently were not on board with the deal, so Henry played out the season in Nashville. That's what's got the people going this morning. So, in hindsight, it's always clear, right? When we start discussing this type of stuff. So, our question of the day at Ramon, Kayla, and Will on Twitter is this. Question of the day, would you have traded running back Derrick Henry last season now, knowing it was on the table and the Titans could have had a 4th, possibly a 3rd-round pick? 250 votes right now. The yeses have won. It's 60-40.
Yeah.
The emotional attachment is there because the 40 is still there, right?
Sure.
But when you look at where this team is at, when you look at what they've done this offseason, what they could have done or even moved up or just gotten more talent, that 4th would have been good. And I think looking at Derrick's production last year, right, it's probably, if I was a guess man, probably 1,000 yards, probably playoffs incentives in that. And Baltimore is a team that's good enough to where they got to compete. They want to compete. They want to win. This wouldn't have been a situation, to my knowledge, that they would have sat Derrick in certain situations and let other running backs run. They've been wanting Derrick. I feel like this conversation has been there for the last 3 years or so, at least the last 2. This conversation has been there before this 24 season comes into play. So you knew there was interest there, and you had your GM on the page, which, again, here's the thing, too. There's no emotional attachment with Rand.
No, he didn't draft him.
Right? He didn't draft him, but also Rand understands the business, too, as it pertains to him being a running back, the valuation of running backs in today's game, and a 4th, y'all, could have done good things for this team. That could have been another wide receiver. That could have been your linebacker that we're looking for, right?
It probably could have been a 3rd.
It would have been a 3rd, right? Or yes, so a 3rd is what we're talking about. Robert, since you are a resident guy, as expert on these certain things, I do want to drag you into this. Would Derrick have been the bell cow type of guy for the Baltimore Ravens last year?
He, at the point when he would have been traded, he probably would have been a bell cow. Like, they still had Gus Edwards, but towards the end of the year, Keaton Mitchell got hurt in the Jacksonville Jaguars game.
Yeah.
So having Derrick in that Kansas City Chiefs game in the AFC Championship would have been massive for the Ravens if he was to be traded at the deadline. But I think it's also interesting to look, if you remember back when this was going on, I felt like it was overwhelmingly no.
It was.
Do not trade Derrick. And now if you look at the polls, it's like, I wish we would have got something. Well, that's hindsight. You know what I mean? It's really easy to go, you definitely should have got something. But you would not have got that 2023 finale. You would have not kept the Jaguars, hypothetically, out of
that's a good point.
The playoffs. So, I mean, there's there's ebbs and flows to it. But just remember this moment when sometime this season we're going to say, should the Titans move on from somebody? Should they do? Oh no! And you're going to think with your fan heart instead of your GM head. So you got to think about those things.
And that's where I was going to go next. I wrote this down as we was coming into this segment. Right, you're at a point to where you got to start building a sustainable franchise. That's where I think the trade of getting rid of assets before necessary is a part of you being good. Again,
Right.
teams that win Super Bowls aren't the 1 year, hey, flash in the pan type of teams, unless you say screw all those draft picks the way the Rams did, right? It's that conversation. But if you look at the way teams are built, it's always building through the draft to be sustainable. That's why Shad Khan, the owners of the Jaguars, right? The owners, majority owners, Shad Khan said, I'm tired of spending my money, basically. You guys need to start drafting and developing in-house so I ain't got to go buy everybody else's free agent. You do that by getting rid of talent at a certain point, too. Like Troy Polamalu probably had one of the more open discussions on, I want to continue to play, and the Steelers said no. And because of that, you move on, you bring in new youth, and you have the ability to stack. I see AJ and the chat is saying this. I'm going to give him more context. He goes, it's disrespectful to Derrick to trade him for a third or a fourth. They did the right thing. I push back and say no, because here's the thing. Derrick was drafted as a second rounder. Derrick has on his plate, how many years has Derrick been in this league? 8 years.
Yeah.
And he was drafted as a second, and you still get a fourth potential third out of him. That is great value.
That really is.
I know first, Isaiah Wilson was traded away for a sixth, if I'm not mistaken.
To Miami.
Derrick has held on value well. A third or fourth for a guy that is essentially 30 years old at this point would have been a phenomenal trade. But that's also what happens when you remove emotions from it. I'm not mad at AJ saying it's disrespectful, because that's what he's supposed to say.
Right, he's a fan.
Or any fans that says that. But it does come down to where can we maximize our potential to get us and keep us a relevant and above board national team. These are the hard decisions.
Sure.
That may have to be made from time to time. And I'll say this.
It's not the last.
It's probably a prerequisite. That's exactly what I was going to say.
It's not the last.
For what's going to come for other guys down the line.
Right. So this was Dan Pompei of The Athletic who wrote this article and kind of gave us some enlightenment into all of this. When talking about, and we're going to get to your calls in just a second, I'm going to also read some of your comments, but you were talking about the higher ups in Tennessee were not on board. That's what Pompei says in this article. So my question to you is, who said no? Like, I think it makes sense with Amy Adams-Strunk's emotional ties to the situation. And I know Derrick Henry has been the face of this franchise.
He has.
And there isn't a lot of guys that have been that recently and that, get the national attention that he gets. I feel like that was probably her call when it was all said and done. But, maybe it was Mike Vrabel. I don't know. But that would probably stick out to me as the higher ups probably. It was probably Amy Adams-Strunk, I would guess.
It had to be somebody in ownership or the head coach, Vrabel, right? I think if you got the GM telling you that, hey, this is it, I think Chad Brinker's overstaffed. I forget how how the roles are, the layout of power goes. But it seems like either somebody in ownership or your head coach said no to that. Those are the things that you have. I have to look and see what the trade deadline was at that time to see what the Titans did. But the biggest, I guess, kudos of it all was you kept the Jags out of the playoffs.
You did, and you got to hear from Derrick Henry as he did say goodbye on the field after that game. Adam on X Twitter says, while it may have not been the best business decision, it shows how big of a heart they have for the greatest Titan of the generation. Another listener, Scott, on X says, sending him out like that in the last game was the right decision. No bitterness from either side. And now he's a Super Bowl contender. And then we've got Taylor, who says, would have traded him back when it was a rumor to begin with. Sight unseen with what came back. He didn't deserve to waste a season competing for nothing. So just some of the comments that we're getting right now. Let's go out to the phone lines. Ali in Nashville. What do you got, Ali? What's up?
What's up, Kayla and Ramon?
What up, Ali?
All right. So this is my viewpoint on it. One, you don't do business mid-season with your rival. We hate the Ravens. And I appreciate Amy Adams-Strunk jumping in and, vetoing the trade. A third or fourth round pick, who cares? You don't do deals with your rival. Back in the day when they traded Steve McNair, she probably realized how much backlash her dad got for trading a superstar player to the hated rival. So, I mean, my viewpoint on this, I'm glad they didn't trade him mid-season to the Ravens because I would have been heated. But, I mean, he decided to go there himself. Cool, that's fine. But doing business with your rival, that should never be happening. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's a good point, Ali, that you bring up about maybe Amy Adams-Strunk, if she was the one that, X'd the trade. She is, as everybody is, as an owner, there is emotions tied to that. And with her dad being the owner for so many years and maybe some of those decisions that she saw the backlash, that's a good point. And I mean, you have to take that into consideration.
I fully disagree with that. Because at that point, you'd already played Baltimore and London. Mm-hmm. You don't have to see them. Derrick, at the most, may end up getting 1-2 years in Baltimore, right? So it's not like you got to face him head on as it pertains to his plans. To me, that is, again, I think a bad issue. And when you're running a business like this in the NFL, the emotional sides of things. Right. This is why sometimes coaches like to have the separation of ownership and coaches. Right. There's levels to how you talk and what Derrick has meant to this fan base and to this team. That's another one of those identity crisis situations where as a franchise, when we're talking about notoriety, we're talking about what the Titans are as far as the franchise moving forward. It has to be the Tennessee Titans. It can't be Derrick Henry and Mike Vrabel and. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Watching the Temptation movies, right? The Temptations are awful. He walks on the stage and said, I'm David Ruffin, and these are the Temptations.
Yeah.
That's not how you want your franchise to be. And I know it's not intended to be that way, but nationally, it was Mike Vrabel and Derrick Henry and
it's true.
The Tennessee Titans. That's where you got to start separating yourself. And I think moving forward, that's what it's going to end up being. Again, I'm not blaming J-Rob. I'm not blaming Vrabel or anybody. But as far as sustainability, with the idea that your franchise is holding its own, that your franchise is a namesake on its own, it has to start with how you operate it too. And some of that is hard decisions to be made. Whether that was PTSD from Eric McNair going to Baltimore, okay, cool. I get it. But we're trying to win now. People's jobs is on the line. A coach still got fired. So the trade deadline last year was October 31st.
Yep.
Derrick didn't get traded. And I'll say there's probably was some emotions in it because October 29th was the Atlanta Falcons game and Will Levis's breakout game too, right? 4 touchdowns. You went 3-10 after that. I'm with the speech. I'm with the idea that, look, Derrick is him. And I think Derrick is still going to be fine. That's a hard decision to make. But you went 3-10 after that. And that right there is where I just say to yourself, all right, now, I'd love to have had that. That's why you love the team, not the players as much.
Mm-hmm. And that's very hard to do, right?
It is hard to do. It is, because Derrick brought a lot of joy to this city and this team.
And he always will be connected to the franchise. Absolutely. Bob in Nashville, let's go out to him and see what he has to say about Derrick Henry. Bob, what's up?
Hey, guys. Appreciate it. My opinion is Rand Carthon, Amy Adams-Strunk, they should went to Derrick Henry and been like, hey, we got this trade. You go to Baltimore. You want to go to Baltimore and win a title? Then I would have kept it secret. Not everyone had snow. They went to him for the trade option because, I don't want any fan pushback on Derrick Henry, but I think the right thing to do would have presented the trade to him, and that's how they should have looked at it.
Thanks so much, Bob.
Yeah. It is, but there's a lot that came in after the fact, too. There's articles this year. Derrick said it's where I wanted to be. I remember, and I don't have it directly. I was trying to look it up while Bob was on the phone there. But Derrick did a Bussin' with the boys. Bussin' with the Boys podcast with Taylor Lewan and Will Compton. And he mentioned that weekend, the Atlanta weekend. If I'm not mistaken, I had to look it up at some point in the break, but he brought up the idea that he thought he was traded, like a deal was in place.
I do remember that episode.
You remember that conversation
I do.
now.
Yeah.
So Derrick knew. Mm-hmm. And again, whoever pulled the rug from underneath this deal been done, that's fine. You have the power to do that. If it was ownership, you know what? This is your baby. You do whatever the heck you want to it. But franchises that have sustainability and winning, somewhat get rid of guys. You think, okay, if you believe in your franchise, and I don't think the Titans were there at that point because you had a rookie quarterback and Ryan Tannehill was in and out. There was a lot that was going on. But let's give a scenario that I don't think anybody would have been on board with. But that's the Kansas City Chiefs trading away Tyreek Hill. I know that situation is different because Patrick Mahomes is the show. He's the son, okay? He is that. And when you got a quarterback like him, you believe in the idea that, look, he's going to make another
And
one.
you got a Travis Kelce who is that guy, right?
And they got pieces in place.
Right.
But we're also talking about homegrown guys.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to who you just said. Travis Kelce, homegrown. Patrick Mahomes, homegrown. Smith, think about Chris Jones. Homegrown dudes, too.
Yeah.
So they have the pillars in place to say we're sustainable as a franchise, too. And that's where when you add more draftable pieces through a trade like that and you went 3-10 after the fact, that's where, to me, is these decisions moving forward have to be more business-like. And, again, you have a guy on staff in the building, one of your GMs, and Chad Brinker, who's part of we need to go ahead and draft Aaron Rodgers' successor.
Mm-hmm.
And Green Bay, and I know Detroit Lions are probably top of the king of the hill of the NFC North, but Green Bay's in a position to where if he does progress as a year 2 starter, full year 2 starter, then there was the right decision to be made. It just
as much as he sat, yeah.
Yeah, as much as he sat. So you got to plan for the future in a lot of these situations.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. And this is just one of those ones that, obviously there's both sides to the story, and it's fair to have opinions on each side. You can continue to chime in on the question of the day. Would you have traded Derrick Henry at the end of October knowing that there was a 4th, possibly 3rd round pick in return? Chime in and we'll get back to that question and check up on it. But right now it is dominated on yes, you would. When we return, Nick Saban, you heard it. He continues to be the talk of the SEC, even though he's not a coach. Now he's got a field named after him. But who's the next Saban? I'm interested to get your thoughts, Ramon Foster. That's coming up next on RKW here on 104.5 The Zone.
Buying a diamond, if you're not properly educated, is hard. If you're not careful, you can overpay big time. Small variations in diamonds' quality specs can make a huge difference in its value. That's why I always recommend Genesis Diamonds. Genesis Diamonds' education is second to none. They will teach you the secrets of the industry. They will explain how diamonds are priced on the world market. Their non-commissioned experts will make you a savvy buyer, even if you decide to shop somewhere else. Doesn't matter to them, okay? These days, this is so important, especially if you're considering buying a lab-grown diamond. Let Genesis reveal the truth behind the recent trend and show you all the info on how lab-grown diamonds are being overpriced in so many places. Bottom line, Genesis is your source for the best information as well as the best value for both natural and lab-grown diamonds. Whether you're buying a diamond for the first time or upgrading to a large, rare investment-grade diamond, Genesis will make sure you don't make a mistake. Genesis Diamonds, where the focus is always on honesty, transparency, education, quality, and value. Don't buy a diamond until you learn the ins and outs from Genesis. They're located in Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Welcome back into RKW. Wrapping up hour 3 here. And we'll continue that conversation.
Yeah.
It sounds like Derrick Henry pretty much knew that was a thing because he spoke about it a while back with Bussin' with the Boys. We'll have that clip coming up in the 9 o'clock hour. So Nick Saban, we heard from our good friend Brent Hubs earlier on in the show of VolQuest. You can always go re-listen to that conversation on your areas where you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts. That will be up if it's not up already. So he was talking about how Nick Saban, how he's not even coaching anymore, but he still is the center of SEC Media Days.
Oh, yeah.
And, he's on the desk now, and he's going to be a part of College Game Day. Clearly, he left a legacy, not only at Alabama because of the winning that he did, but in college football, he will always be considered one of the GOATs. And so now the University of Alabama is planning on honoring him. They're going to name the football playing field for him at Bryant-Denny Stadium. That's going to happen on September 7th with the South Florida game. So he will have his name etched in history, literally, at Alabama.
Wow.
And it's going to be hard to really think about who could be the next Nick Saban, if anybody can live up to that bar that he set. And because it's the new day and age which we're living in, where NIL is different, where the transfer portal is different. If anyone can do it, Ramon Foster, who will it be?
The next guy, as it stands right now, it looks like Kirby. Kirby Smart at Georgia. But here's the difference, though. Coach Saban was able to do this in an era where you just had to recruit with championships. You had to recruit with winning. You had to recruit with your reputation. All right, we had Brent Hubs on earlier and said the Vols had a 4/5-star tight end that was locked in until the night before where he got a bag. Mm-hmm. And that's the differences these days. Like, I think what Texas A&M did with Jimbo Fisher with that elite class that they had recruited was smart. They beat everybody to the punch. And then next thing you know, everybody else poured into their NILs and collectives, right? So I want to say it's Kirby Smart because I think he has that level of discipline. He has that demeanor. He has that command to make his squad be good and somewhat keep his thumb on their neck to where, or keep his foot on their neck to where they think they're not as good as they are. At least that's what the audio I got from whenever they were about to play the Vols that week. And it showed too. So I throw him in it. I thought for a while we was going to get a little bit of that out of Ryan Day, but Ryan Day's got to show improve this year. And the fact that Michigan won the national championship.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we'll have it that crazy, Kayla. Because, again, we're watching teams we hadn't talked about in a while be in the national championship conversation. We got Lane Kiffin in Ole Miss. We got whoever, Cristobal, I guess, at Miami. Mario Cristobal in Miami.
And he's not been awful, but he's not achieved what he should at this point.
With the amount of money that they spent. And you got Oregon, right? There's a lot of coaches that are in that conversation. You throw Vols, you throw Brian Kelly in there. You can throw a lot of teams in this conversation. Heck, Mac Brown at UNC is a national championship winning coach.
He's the current most wins that's active.
So to have a run like this, Kayla, it's either Kirby or nobody else is the way I see it. But the thing is, it's a matter of, until they regulate it, who's got the biggest bag to pay for these athletes. And it's a matter of, does Kirby and DeBoer or whoever else recruit through wins, or are you recruiting through money?
Yeah. And here's the other thing.
So to answer it, I don't know.
But you would feel Kirby's the best answer.
Yes.
And I think a lot of us would agree. I do believe when 3HL was at SEC Media Days this week in Dallas, Paul Feinbaum joined the show, and he pretty much said the next Nick Saban is clearly Kirby Smart, and he didn't even blink an eye at that comment. Yeah. He said it is now becoming that, and clearly he's got a few more that he has to win there, and he's a lot younger, even I think than when Saban was at that point in his career. But I don't think there's a likeliness either of him leaving, because where are you going unless I guess it was the NFL, and I don't really picture Kirby Smart going to that level. So you're not going to have the worries about him leaving Georgia either. And, Nick Saban had reached that point in his career because he did test the waters in the NFL and didn't succeed.
Yeah, well, I'll say this too about Feinbaum. Lane Kiffin has been on record by saying he's been wrong numerous times.
Yes, they went at it
That was crazy.
on the desk in terms of the back and forth conversation.
It got more personal than I think either one of them wanted. Lane Kiffin told him, you were wrong about me. You was wrong about Miley Cyrus. I was like, golly. Nobody's ever going to Feinbaum like that. But Lane looked like he had an agenda on that one.
And
now, we might as well listen to it. I've got
yes,
the audio.
please.
You have
Can
it?
we please?
Do
yes,
it.
bring it.
College game day, you'd make your big splash, and they were watching it because I know the other person in the room that was watching it with them. And you said, what a joke I was. I'm the Miley Cyrus of college football coaching, and I should be fired. And they looked at each other, and later that night I was fired. Yeah. By the way. So, but hey, look what happened. I would have never gotten to work for Coach Saban. All these other things wouldn't happen. So I appreciate you for helping getting me fired. Thank you. Look at what you're doing today. You're predicted to go to the playoffs. Look at Miley Cyrus. She's had a nice comeback. So you were wrong on that. I mean, you put me down with that. So really, I don't really know what you're good at. Like you predicted that Coach Saban was done. That didn't happen. You basically said Miley Cyrus stinks, and she's still going. Yeah. Well, anyway, it's always.
Well, anyway.
So we're going to change the subject real quick. I love it, dude. I love it. And it's credit to Paul Feinbaum, too, because he admits it. He's like, yeah, you know what? I did say that. And Lane's going to be the first person who pushes back on anything.
That ought to tell you what kind of team he feel like they got.
Absolutely.
That ought to tell you what kind of team he feel like he has.
I can't wait for this season. Football right around the corner. We can feel it. We can hear it.
Yeah.
We're not complaining. Put the fours up, y'all, because it is hour 4 on a Friday, and we're going to act like it. We've got former Titans wide receiver Nate Washington joining us at 9:20. But coming up next, Ramon Foster did some digging during the break, and we found the audio from Derrick Henry's trip to Bussin' with the Boys. Sounds like he pretty much knew there was a possibility he was being traded during the season. That's coming up next here on RKW 104.5 The Zone.
What's going on? 901. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh, former Packers wide receiver Randall Cobb. Joining the SEC Network as a college football studio analyst, Cobb played 13 years in the NFL, totaling over 7,600 yards with 54 touchdowns. Kevin Durant expected to rejoin Team USA practice today in London, his first with the Olympic team, but could make his debut in one of the exhibition games versus South Sudan on Saturday or versus Germany on Monday. He is returning from a strained calf he suffered in practice on July 7th. The Clippers and Jazz agree to a sign-and-trade deal involving Russell Westbrook, the team announced Thursday, and sources told ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski that the former MVP is expected to join the Nuggets after Utah waives him and buys out the remainder of his contract. And Lucas Panzica came in here and got mad as hell at me because I ain't previewed this Nashville SC game, so every single one of y'all need to go buy tickets, flights, and everything because it's in Philly. Pregame at 6 o'clock, kickoff at 6:30. Go listen to Lucas Panzica do a great job calling that game. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
It is that time where you put those fours up, unless you're driving, of course. Maybe 1 4 up. You can still have those hands on the wheels. It is hour 4 of RKW here on 104.5 The Zone alongside our NFL veteran, our Vol for Life. It's Ramon Foster. We've got Robert Walsh behind the glass, making it all happen. I'm Kayla Anderson. Of course, you can always connect with us on the show. We are streaming live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitch.
Push, please.
You can also call us 615-737-1045. But it is hour 4, and just like we did in hour 1, we are going to wrap up hour 4, and we're going to act like it because it's Friday.
It's Friday. 104.5. Yeah. There we go.
Is that good?
That was good. That was good.
I can get my voice
You had
deep,
a baritone going right there. Yes. Yeah.
Dig deep into that diaphragm.
I love it, man. Absolutely. It's Friday. Last hour, too, man.
I know. We have, it seems like at least it's flown by. Hopefully it has for those who are listening, maybe waiting on a flight to take off out of B&A.
I know.
Be patient.
Yeah, for sure. I got another announcement, too, real quick. Another shout out. Yeah, absolutely. We can do this real quick, man, on this beautiful, beautiful Friday. Humidity is low, which is a good thing, too.
It is.
But shout out to the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame. Their event is tomorrow.
Okay.
I got a text. They have a live auction going on right now. It is some very nice items. But this year's class includes, of course, Chris Johnson, Paul Lacone, Chris Bayless, Chris Burke, Bucci, Scott Hamilton, and a long list of others. Pecorini's in this, too.
Yeah.
Tickets are still available. Shout out to Brad Willis for putting this event on, man. I think the new venue will be inside the new stadium whenever they open up, too. So that event is this weekend. If you want to go and be amongst a star-studded crowd, tickets are still available, and there's a live auction still going on, too. So shout out to Chris Johnson and everybody else that's in this class.
I love it. It's such a cool thing. And to hear some of the speeches and just to be around all the people, it's a really cool event. I think I covered a couple years ago when I was at News 2. So, yeah, great work there by Brad Willis and the crew to get that thing going every single year.
Yes, indeed. Super cool event. But we got to get right back to it, don't we, KK?
Because you did some digging, and I'm not going to let that go unheard because we have been talking about our question of the day. Would you have traded running back Derrick Henry last season, knowing that now it would have been a possible 4th or 3rd round pick? By the way, our poll, over 280 votes, it's getting a little bit closer. 59.2% say yes, 40.8% say no. So a little bit closer there. I know a lot of opinions coming in this morning, but you did some digging because we were talking about like Derrick Henry, knowing that this was going to be the case possibly. And you did some digging and said it was Bussin' with the Boys when he appeared on the podcast.
Earlier this year.
Yeah,
it's January of this year.
They asked the question, right?
Mm-hmm. It was actually Taylor Lewan that phrased it. I think Bert got it from the beginning on this one. So here's that clip.
Back from speaking more about it right now.
Because I don't really know how close it was. I just know I felt like it was close. I felt like it was pretty close.
And were you getting that feeling from the agents?
Yeah, kind of, because I felt like this team really wanted me to, come over and be a part of what they had going on.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
But at the same time, I don't really know, the communication between both sides. But to my acknowledgement, I felt like it was pretty close.
Said this team really, really wanted me to come over.
Sure.
And they flirted in free agency.
That being the Baltimore Ravens.
Yes, like Derrick hesitation.
It was so telling.
It was deafening.
He was trying not to say too much.
Too much, yes.
But you're right.
If you go look at Derrick, look at Taylor Lewan and Will Compton, you'll see Derrick give answers and what he can say, to your point.
Yeah.
And what he shouldn't be saying. And he also referenced a couple other things too. He said, if they got rid of KB, we all thought we were gone. Like, I guess he thought that this was going to be a youth reset. I think this is what Derrick was alluding. So I had a buddy of mine text me, was like, he disagreed with me. I was like, fine.
Did he?
He mentioned the financial side of it. It's like, there'd have been nobody in the stadium. Absolutely nobody in the stadium last game of the year. Like, there's that. Like, tickets, jersey sales, concessions. Like, if Derrick gone, but you also have the side of this thing to where you get more experience with Tajay. You let Tajay grow up a little bit more. You actually put the ball in Will Levis's hand and let him command this team as his own instead of break glass in case of emergency and use Derrick Henry, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you go back, and that clip is out there, I tweeted at it, and I think our show account retweeted it also.
We did.
If you look at Derrick talk about this and how he stops talking and acknowledges certain things with Taylor, that deal was done. In my opinion, this is my opinion.
Yeah, no.
That deal was done. And I think, of course, all the things that I named earlier, team morale, fan morale, perception, whether it be Steve McNair going to Baltimore, watching Derrick eat at another place, right? There's a lot that goes into it that I think, of course, if it's my baby as a business, right, as a franchise.
Are you speaking about Amy Adams-Strunk possibly?
Or whoever,
being,
whether it was Vrabel. Maybe this was Vrabel's last ditch to save his job in the sense of, oh, wow. Again, I told you the trade deadline was October 31st last year. That weekend was also the weekend Will Levis had his breakout game.
In Atlanta.
So maybe it could have been Vrabel say, hey, we finally have our quarterback, and with Derrick, it's off. And Rand has always said what? From the day he came in, my job is to satisfy that man over there.
It's about being a businessman.
It's about satisfying Mike Vrabel.
Mm-hmm.
And if it was Vrabel that said yes, that said don't do it, he listened to his coaches. That's something that Rand has said. So I don't know who made Kayla the final say, but it sounds to me, in listening to Derrick, listening to what Baltimore's GM had to say, the deal was done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he also mentioned in that conversation with Bussin' with the Boys, he did say there was also possibly somebody else. This was the clear one that was actually the wheels were turning, but there was a mention of another team as well.
Team.
But it is fascinating now in hindsight, of course. It's a little bit easier now to also say, if you said, hey, maybe they should have done the deal because you know what the return would have been. Yeah. Here's my question to you, though. So moving forward now, we know that Derrick Henry is a Baltimore Raven.
Yeah.
We know that they have a good opportunity to win a Lombardi trophy here in the next couple of years. If he does, in fact, go to the Super Bowl, win a Super Bowl, does that or is that unfair at all? Because you would probably guess that most of the conversation although he spent most of his career here, and I don't know how long he'll have to play after this, but it will probably be focused in terms of what he did in Baltimore.
It will, because that's where he got the ring. Like, as far as helping Baltimore, I think if Derrick plays for another 4+ years, then you can say, yeah, he's owed to both. You know what I'm saying? As far as that goes, I think he's forever a Titan. I think he'll probably retire as a Titan too. But the respect that he'll have for what Baltimore is capable of doing with them, he'll never erase. Like I said, I look at him as a Titan. If he do 2 years there, cool. All right, yeah, he's definitely a Titan.
You know
right?
what the national media is going to do, though. I hate to always bring them up, but you know what they're going to try to do.
They're going to say Baltimore Raven, Derrick Henry. Yeah, and that's okay too. But as long as Derrick retires a Titan, then all is well, right?
Mm-hmm.
A ring does change a lot.
It
I'll
does.
say this: AB got one with Tampa. AB's a Stiller. You know?
You don't really associate him with Tampa Bay necessarily, but he
and
got
Tom is the same way.
Yeah.
The bulk of his career was here. The 2,000 yards happened here. Historically, is here. I've heard AB speak about that, and it's like, well, who do you hold your allegiance to? It was like, where I ate the most.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, I ate more with Ben. I got the ring with Tom, but I ate more with Ben. So I think that's where Derrick sits on this conversation too. It's wild in hindsight to hear this. And I think we all, kind of scathed over it in the beginning when Derrick did this with busting with the boys and just like, yeah, whatever, you're ours now. But the fact that he's happily in Baltimore and has said a few things too is this is where I wanted to be. Mm-hmm. But that also, I think, shows what type of team that Baltimore has. I think more than anything, if you're going to be a Titans fan and you're upset about what Derrick is going through, you also got to look at the way this team was built for years and the lack of, the pieces that you had to be competitive. Like, if Derrick is the missing piece for Baltimore runs the ball the exact same way that the Titans do, this is why changes at GM was made. This is why head coaching change was made, because when you have these types of weapons, you don't want to waste away that talent. And again, the bottom dollar is always going to be king, but winning and having a sustainable product is something that I know most franchises want. Nobody wants to be the Cleveland Browns. Disrespectfully, I say that because that's my AFC side.
They do not. That's okay. You can hate on them as much as you want.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get into some training camp talk because training camp starts up next Tuesday. We will be there doing our show live from 6 to 10 a.m. Former Titans wide receiver Nate Washington joins us next. We'll get his thoughts on that and really expectations for some of the wide receivers coming into this year. That's next on RKW here on 104.5 The Zone.
It's Ramon Foster here for Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Letting you know, Hiller, our friends over there, they are celebrating 34 years in business this year, and they're bringing the celebration to you with their birthday bash all of this month. Yes, until July 31st. You can enjoy a free smart thermostat with select new HVAC systems on your home, which you can control straight from your phone, all right? Free water test to see what kind of impurities you have running inside of your house, and they can help you get that fixed also. Or free leak detection and shutoff valves for tankless water heaters. You can also buy 10 lights and get 2 free landscaping lights free, and Hiller will also help you install them. So celebrate Hiller's birthday bash all of this month that I've been telling you to the end, July 31st. You can simply get more details by visiting happyhiller.com.
Welcome back into RKW. Close to wrapping this one up, but before we do that, we had to invite our good friend, former Titans wide receiver Nate Washington on the show. It's been a while, my friend. How are you?
Taylor, thank you for the invite. I'm doing well. Just happy to be getting back to football season.
I know.
Close.
Right?
Close.
We're definitely feeling
hey,
it.
guys. What's up, Will? What's up, Mom?
What up, Unc? I can't call you Unc. We close in age, man. What up, big dog? Let's I hit you with that one instead.
Like George Foster said, I take all Unc status right now. I do not mind.
You know why? Because you're good and healthy, man. That's why Unc status is cool. Yeah. That's what that is.
Nate, before we get into some training camp stuff, because that's obviously starting up next week for the Titans, this is the kind of talk today with some stuff coming out in The Athletic. Dan Pompeo writing that there was a trade in place during the season last year for Derrick Henry, and we had details emerge about it that it would have been a fourth, possibly could have turned into a third-round pick. We've been talking to fans all morning, but what do you think that now in hindsight, do you think the Titans should have gone through with that deal?
I'm going to give my personal opinion.
Yep.
And I don't think that they should have. I don't think, his notoriety and what he brought to the city of Nashville was worth a fourth-round pick. Derrick Henry meant so much more to the community of Nashville and what he was able to do with his tenure there. I just don't think personally that was the proper way to send him off from the community of Nashville. I think it's understandable more so dealing with the fan base of understanding that he might hit free agency and due to the business end to let him go. But, looking at a situation where you lose probably your pinnacle of your organization at a time period for a third, fourth round draft pick, I personally would have been hurt by that. Being a former player, I've been an advocate of, guys being able to retire with the organizations that have drafted them. In our first game in the league, that's how a lot of things work. But it's just not the business anymore. So it's kind of disheartening when you see your guy leave the organization after being there so long, but that's just how the game works. So to have seen him leave in the middle of the season over a fourth-round draft pick, especially seeing, what they've been able to do here in this offseason. I'm very excited about this roster on both sides of the ball. I think they did a great job of, putting together a team that will compete at a high level, understanding the new regime coming in with Coach Callahan. So, I don't think we would have benefited over a third, fourth round pick. This roster, what we have after all of the storm has cleared, after him leaving and going to Baltimore, after, the free agency and him searching his options, I think it panned out exactly the way it should with the roster that we have, and we still are in good contention. So definitely, I think it was a good pass. I think at the end of the day, keeping Derrick and allowing him to play out the season, allowing him, to say goodbye to the fans the best possible way he possibly could, I think that was a good opportunity, not only for him, but the community and the fans of Nashville.
Very well put. And I know it is, both sides were getting those types of opinions, right? On yes, they should have, and no, they shouldn't have, but that was really well said. Moving forward, though, with all those new pieces you're talking about, and that includes a brand new coaching staff. Entering training camp this next week when it starts up, what are you looking for specifically out of the gates? Like, what's going to be the thing that week one that you're like, okay, this is what I want to see early on here?
Okay, well, I'm going to make a very bold statement here, you all.
Those we love about you. Go for it.
This may be the best unit of receivers collectively that the Titans have ever had.
Wow.
Ever. I'm talking about the history of their organization. Have they had talented guys come through, Derek Masons, your A.J. Browns, your Kenny Britts, those guys, were definitely impact. But collectively, I don't think they've ever had a room like this, and as much as I know Derek's leaving, people will be interested in how Tajay and Pollard will work out for this system. But you also have to understand with the new regime coming in that we might not be the ground and pound team that we once were. A lot of things may change, and giving Will a longer leash in what he's capable of getting done for this offense with his arm. So with that being said, I think the running game is going to be what it is. I'm actually looking for a better run game, being that I think our offensive line will be a lot better in their structure and their coaching with Coach Callahan. I think they'll be a lot better. So I'm expecting the offensive run game to be okay. But this receiver core, I'm excited. I'm very excited about what their possibility is. You look at a guy in DeAndre Hopkins that has been a solid guy his whole career. Very much a lot of questions on what he's capable of doing here moving forward. But at the same time, he's shown that he's still able to play at a high rate. You get a free agent in Calvin Ridley that obviously is still top 10, I think, receivers in this league of what he's capable of doing, still in the prime of his career, still being able to be a number one receiver. I'm excited about watching him. And of all, honestly, I think Tyler Boyd is going to bring something to this receiver room that we haven't had in a long time. And it's a reliable slot receiver that's with size and able to do something, plays with passion. I love what he's able to do and what he's able to bring to the table. Those three guys alone in itself, are an excitement, something to look forward to. And then the possibility of Traylon growing and hopefully being that number one draft pick that we drafted a couple years ago. I'm excited to see him turn the corner. I'm excited to see Traylon have the opportunities and seize them and be a big asset for this offense with the utility knife and NWI. I think Nick is always going to be a reliable source for injuries, for special teams play, for all the things that he's able to bring to be a restorable asset behind those big names. So I'm looking forward to this receiver room. I think there's always been expectation for the receivers in that two-tone blue to perform well, but this probably is the best unit collectively that they've ever had, in my opinion.
Nate Washington with us this morning. Nate, man, I referenced your other team too in this one because you've been around this, but one of your good friends, man, is Casey Hampton, nose tackle, D tackle, right? And the Titans have the ability right now, if he grows up from the same University of Texas as Big Hemp is, to have an impact up the middle like that, man. You mentioned Will Levis and all the tools that he has now, right, with Tajay to the wide receivers. What did you see a guy like Casey Hampton do for that defense who only had that year 22 combined tackles, man? What was his impact as far as that defense goes and what you can expect out of a guy like T'Vondre Sweat in the same conversation?
Right. I think that's major right there, Mo. I talk to Hamp a lot about, that position in itself is not the most attractive position on the field with the fans. People don't pay attention. They don't understand the necessity of those guys in that three tech or the nose tackle. They don't understand what those guys do a lot. But I tell him a lot, between him and Vince Wilfork, they're probably the most underrated defensive lineman of their era because of their ability to two-gap, which means they were holding up a lot of blocks that were, making it hard for the other team to run the ball in the middle. Him and Vince Wilfork at the time, Casey Hampton and Vince Wilfork at the time were the pinnacle of being pillars of being able to two-gap, allow their linebackers to have free running lanes to make plays in the backfield. And I think that's exactly what Sweat is going to bring as well. You look at him with the combination of Simmons, and obviously what Simmons has already been able to establish in the league, his respect and understanding that he'll get a lot of double teams and a lot of singles may happen for Sweat. So I'm excited about, finally being able to get that pressure in the middle. Autry was great, but seeing him leave and go to Houston, that was going to be a major void, so in the middle. So it was important that they fill that void and understand that there was going to be an importance to be able to stop the run. And I think that's exactly what Sweat will be able to do. I think he'll be able to plug a lot of gaps with his size, his strengths, give a lot more even opportunity for Simmons to make plays. And I know he's pretty much excited about the help that he'll be getting, but overall and looking at it, there'll be a great possibility for the interior of our defensive line to be solid, to be strong, to be durable, and to really create some impact for our linebackers to make some plays in the backfield this year.
a very thankless job those D tackles, nose tackles have, man.
Oh, no doubt.
No doubt. Nate, one thing that the masses don't pay attention to, because I'm an outsider now, former player, I get excited this time of the year, Nate, because training camp and real football, as we open this segment up with, is on the way. We less than a week away, Nate. What did you love or hate about training camp? Can you give us both of them, man? Because I think we indulge in it, but realize, it sucks in camp sometimes, man. So how was it for you?
Oh, yeah. Well, ultimately, like you said, it was just an opportunity. What I loved about it was the opportunity to get back to football. The competition in itself, as much as you can dread the practicing and the work and the workloads that you got to put in, being out there on that field and being able to run routes against guys, being able to, talk a little junk if I'm honest, and being able to compete, that always got my blood flowing. That was the pinnacle of my life, of my adrenaline. That made I don't think no other encounter in my life besides maybe having my children allow my adrenaline to rush, like being able to compete on the gridiron against other guys that were worthy and put the same work in as me. That was the one thing that I actually did love about the game. But as you stated, coming back to camp, the first thing that will always be on my mind is that conditioning test. I would be like, man, I would dread it no matter how much in shape I was, no matter how many leeways I would get. I know the older I would get, some of my coaches would come to me like, hey, just make sure you get through the conditioning test today. And I'd be like, cool. But I would still dread it, like doing gashers at 25 yards, 300-yard gashers at 25 yards, under a minute, those type of things. Oh, my God. That was the worst part of it for me. But, once I would get back and once I would get through the conditioning test, it would pretty much be cruise control. I was ready in training camp mode and ready to work.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I tell them all the time, when people think as folks fail in the conditioning test, they always think of the big dudes, right? The O-line and D-line. Nate, you guys had just as much anxiety about that.
No doubt, Ramon. I think people don't understand. You guys might have had your size, but they would differentiate our time. So, yeah, you guys might have had a little more weight, but shoot, here it is. My hamstrings are on fire because I'm in full tilt mode trying to make this time.
Yeah. Which, by the way, that's probably one of the most overrated things, Nate, if we're going to be real, because if you're not in shape, then you're going to find out in camp anyway. So why are we out here running like this?
Oh, no question. It's so funny you bring that up because a really, really, really quick story about it, being that you brought his name up. Casey Hampton, he figured out a way to just get out of training camp and take training camp to get time on pup, to get in shape, to get ready for the season, to beat the drill. So I totally agree with you. It was overrated.
It's overrated, but go ahead, man.
Nate Washington joined us on RKW this morning. So you had talked about this talented wide receiver group. They clearly got a little bit deeper and now some name recognition in the secondary. What do you feel like this battle, is going to be like throughout camp?
Iron sharpens iron, Kayla, and one of the best things about this situation that they're in, having Sneed, having Calvin Ridley, is these guys will be prepared, when they face teams like Houston. I think Houston is a very reputable opponent when it comes to talent in the secondary and in their skill position on their receiver room, so being able to face teams like that on a Sunday, but, you prepared all week against each other, the best of the best in practice, that's going to be beneficial for both sides. Our defensive backs and our receivers. I'm pretty sure, there will be a different scheme that'll be in place for our defensive backs. From my understanding, we will no longer have to deal with DBs being 7-8 yards off on 3rd and 2, and I'm excited about that. Yeah. So, those reps in practice and those things of competition that they'll endure in practice with each other will do nothing but make each other better on Sundays. I tell a lot of people, a lot of times, the games become easier the more difficult practice is. Yeah. The more difficult my opponent is in practice, being able to get off the line and being able to run my routes against a Jason McCourty or Cortland Finnegan at the time, that prepared me for Sundays. It made me go out there and be a lot more relaxed it made it a lot more easier for me to prepare and perform on Sundays, having that competition throughout the week. So, I'm pretty sure they'll, eventually speak on their experience throughout training camp, but iron sharpens iron, and they'll make each other better, not only during training camp, but throughout the season, especially with their information that they'll be taking in on each other. One of the main things I used to love about being with Jason McCourty is we will always have discussions about our tendencies, our flaws, so we can go back and improve on those things, hearing those things from the opposite side of the ball. So, you got a room full of guys that are pros, and I think the passion is there now to create a winning standard of organization, a new coaching regime and a new standard upon which they'll approach the game. So I'm excited about watching those guys being able to make each other better throughout the year.
Nate, is there any cautionary tale that you'll have for somebody being that you're an offensive guy and now this team is somewhat transitioning from a defensive-minded head coach? That you can say, all right, the first 4 games of the season might look like this, because that's the thing about offense, right? Like, it takes time to develop flow. So what would it look like, you think, this year with Brian Callahan being your head coach in offensive?
I would love to give an exact, understanding of what was going on, but I really don't know. But I will say this, typically when you deal with defensive coaches, defensive-minded coaches, you deal with coaches that understand just taking care of the ball. They do not want to go out there and be lackadaisical, pitching the ball all around the field, trying to be super creative, putting your guys in position that will eventually hurt them. They want to maintain the ball. They want to attack on defense. So those type of coaches typically come in with an idea of one side and trying to still learn the other side of the ball along the way. I think my best example would be, Coach Mike Munchak. When we had him, we were a run team. We were a run team. Coach Munchak wanted to make sure that, we sustained the turnover battle. We won those things, and on defense was solid, but for the most part, Coach Munchak spent a lot of time with the defensive side of the ball, just still trying to understand their tendencies and what they were capable of doing and what he would desire for them to do. So, there'll be a small disconnect, but, overall, I think they have the skill positions and the tools to be open enough to allow this offense to flourish, to allow this passing game to still be impactful, to still fill out their run game. Like I said, I'm excited about this offensive line and what their capabilities are and possibilities are for the season. So excited about the run game still, but definitely is going to be a team that's going to want to take care of the ball and be a high-octane defense.
Nate, real quick, man, I got to ask you before it gets real. Traylon Burks, what does he have to do this year to somewhat, I guess not to somewhat, for them to want to pick up that fifth-year option?
First of all, he has to be on the field. I think that is his nightmare. I think that is his kryptonite. Of all things that we could talk about his talent, I can sit here and tell you all day about how he needs to get in and out of his breaks and how he needs to catch the ball with his hands, but none of that matters if he's on the field. And since we drafted him, he's really been able to stay on the field. I remember the very first training camp he had. He was unavailable for a majority of the training camp. And I knew right then and there, I said, you just don't prepare for a season with being injured, regardless of the injury. Unfortunately, injuries come with the game. I understand they happen, but at the same time, when there's an expectation on you being an asset towards the organization, you have to be on the field by any means necessary. And he's just been unavailable, so of all the things that we could talk about his talent, we could talk about his yards that we could require from him, a touchdown mark, a certain amount of receptions for the year, but none of it matters if he's on the field. So I would just tell him, of all things, you are in a great position where his first year we were actually relying on him to be a number one or a number two. Yeah. He's no longer in that sense of urgency, and I would expect him to take full advantage of it. He'll probably be a number 3 or number 4 in this offense, and he must take advantage of it by remaining healthy and being available when his number is called and making those plays. Otherwise, I don't see anything wrong with him making a big play. We've seen it from him, right? So that's not the concern. The main concern is just him being on the field and him being available to play.
He is Nate Washington. Are you going to be out at training camp at all?
I'm definitely sure you guys will see me at some point. I gotta come see you all.
We're going to be live out there, so you bet you have no excuse not to come by and sit down with us for a second.
Yes, definitely. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it, Kayla.
Hey,
thank you so much.
We appreciate you, Nate. Thanks for coming on. We'll see you here in the next few weeks.
Yes, definitely. Have a good day, guys.
Have a good weekend, Nate. That is Nate Washington joining us. He'll be out there at training camp. Maybe we'll get to talk to him again. But coming up next, we're going to wrap up the show. And last call for your phone call, 615-737-1045. We'll wrap up the show next here on RKW 1045 The Zone. RKW wrapping up the show here on this Friday. It's been a fast and furious show, as it always seems to be on a Friday. Maybe that's because we're looking forward to our last weekend without real football coverage.
It is.
Because training camp gets started.
Before you know it, we're going to have the Hall of Fame game on, and I'm going to be sitting there watching it intently. You hear me? Yeah,
but we're excited about it. We're going to be out there live at St. Thomas Sports Park for the entirety of training camp. Buck Rising will be following us out there live all throughout training camp. And it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to just kind of being out in the atmosphere. I know this is the first time our show has been out there live, so it'll be fun. We'll try to get some people who are in town, like Nate Washington and some other people.
Maybe Fowler. We'll see who we can grab while also reporting what we can. We can't tell you everything about practice.
We'll
until
do our
after
best.
practice is done, I think is usually the rules and stuff. So I wonder, I'm going to be honest with you. I wonder, will there be me there at some point by the end of training camp? Was like, I'm tired. Let's go home. Like, I don't want to come here anymore. I'm tired of seeing you guys. But
there's always
that's how
gonna
I
be,
was. It's always like that.
It's always like that. But then, we're refreshed when we get to actually start the season, because then we get to see them hit somebody besides themselves, and the story goes on and on. But tons of storylines to get out of this training camp, and we'll be able to see firsthand some of the guys we're looking forward to seeing for the first time, really, with like Tavondre Sweat and L'Jarius Sneed and guys like that.
And I'll be honest, I want to see Harold Landry. I want to see Arden.
Dude, he looks,
what the rushes are going to look like now. How attacking this defense is going to be like. Will it be just drop the leash and say, hey, go eat?
Yeah, I'm excited. Harold Landry looked good in the brief time that we saw him in OTAs and mandatory minicamp. I mean, I feel like that guy is going to have a huge year. Let's go out to the phone lines one last time. Kyle in Unionville, he has something to talk about with Nate Washington, who just joined us last segment.
Yeah, guys, I was trying to jump on with him, but Bert said that'd be a little hard to do at two phone lines. But I just want to let him know he was my favorite receiver, even over AJ and D Mace. That guy didn't really have much of a quarterback or consistent quarterback, and he still went out there and got 5 receptions for 80 yards and a touchdown every game.
Yeah.
And I just remember him going up over Cromartie, snatching that ball out from his hands and just stiff-arming him to the ground and running to the end zone. I was at that game.
Oh, nice.
Man, Tiffin University, I think they retired his jersey.
Yeah,
man.
Thanks, Kyle.
I'm talking about major undrafted guy. Like, I'm undrafted from a Power 5. I don't even know where Tiffin is.
Is it Ohio?
Is it Ohio? Yes.
I might be wrong, but...
Well, I'll say this. I clicked on Pro Football Reference, right? And I just clicked on Tiffin
it's
players.
in Tiffin, Ohio.
It's Nate Washington. 3 players, 0 drafted.
Wow.
Jaquan Hardy and 21. Chris Ivory is also from, I think it was spent time with the Saints. Chris Ivory did.
Yep.
And sure
Nate
did.
Washington.
Yeah, and
There
Nate Washington. Those are your 3 Tiffin University guys right there.
And it's funny, we actually, Kyle, I don't know if you were listening to the show that day, we actually talked about Nate Washington and maybe being one of those underrated guys in that specific moment we brought up. So really cool that we can get him on the show every now and then, because I'll tell you one thing I love about Nate is he doesn't sugarcoat things. No. And I appreciate that, him being able to be honorable because he played here, but also he'll give you his real opinion.
100%. 100%. Love that, man. Such a great dude, though. Like you said, he unk status now. He don't shy away
I know.
from it.
I'm like, wait, how is he older than you?
Yeah, Nate's older than me.
Okay, got
Nate is, just had it pulled up a second ago.
He's probably like, I don't want you to say my birthday.
Nah, Nate is 40. He just turned 40.
Damn! Hey, Bert, you be careful back there, bro.
Old as hell.
You be careful about that.
That reminds me of the Kevin Hart thing. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'll take that back.
I'm sorry about that.
Well, he's talking to Don Cheadle. Oh, what a great little skit they had.
Oh, that's my fault. I apologize.
Well, that does it. That does it for this show. RKW, great Friday. Thanks to all of our guests, Nate Washington, Brent Hubs. Thanks for you tuning in, listening, and we'll be getting ready for training camp next week.
We will be.
Can't wait.
We will be. Y'all know how we end on Fridays, man. Call somebody you ain't talked to in a while. Apologize to somebody. Buy somebody a random drink. Have a random conversation, man. Like Jackie Moon said, everybody love everybody, okay? But at all times, your Twitter fingers and your mic is always hot.